Ready to rock.
Right, we're rocking, Tommy.
Let's do
Rock
it.
on, Tommy.
AB. It's been a
So,
while, man.
yeah, Tommy of New York, huh?
Yep, that's right. Forever New York. Last time we talked, I was telling you I'd love to get out of here, and man, I, I I don't know. I do like one thing. I do like is the season change. I'm used to that. I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm used to that. But there's a pull. I mean, you lived in climates where it was like endless summer, so you know the vibe there. There's something about that I like. First of all, it makes the years go by slower because everything's just one. Like, for example, here it's winter, and then, well, it's going to be winter. And 3 months, it's another season. It feels like it went past quick. Then spring, and then it comes and goes. But in a place where it's just nice all the time, it just, the season never ends and everything seems slower. And I like that. The years go by slower. Everything rips past. It's like Christmas again. And I'm like, I just remember the last Christmas. That's the only the negative of that. I like the seasons, but I don't like how everything feels like it's ripping past. And I
Yeah.
know you're back in multi climates now, and how you feel about that?
Well, I used to run away from Great Britain all my life to sunnier climes, and to get away from the greyness. In Britain we have a lot of cloud cover, and many a day throughout the winter we have a blanket of grey over the nation, and I've never been partial to that, and so I always used to go, fuck this shit, because every time I used to get on a plane and take off and go up through the grey shit out into the glorious blue sky with the sun there, you go, oh my god, and then I'd land in another country and the sun would still be there, and then like, what is it with Britain? But what is it with Britain is that we're on the tail end of the northern slipstream, and so we get all that inclement weather dumped because it's the end of the slipstream, right over Britain and France, and so if you continue further over to east, a couple of thousand miles, you go to Croatia, you go to Bulgaria, you've got clear blue skies. It's on exactly the same latitude, but you've got clear blue skies and guaranteed seasons. When I was living in Bulgaria, you'd have a real fierce winter, often minus 20 Celsius. That is very, very cold. But then the 1st of April, you'd have clear blue skies right through until the end of, say, November. And it was absolutely beautiful. But in Britain, we never know what we're going to get. And, we can get 4 seasons in one day, and we invariably do. But these days, what I've done now, I've set my regime so it doesn't affect me. So because I multitask, I like to do lots of different things. Um, when there's no foraging to do, there's no natural wild foods and there's no fungi, and it's not glorious sunshine, so you just can't, with a good conscience, stay inside like writing a book or playing your music. So I do those things. So during these winter months, when the weather is, nondescript, I apply myself to my music, to my vocals, to reading, and writing, that sort of thing. And before I know it, it will be the spring again, and then I'll be out and about. Doing endless walks in the country and things like that, without feeling guilty that, oh, I should be in the house
Right.
reading or bettering myself, because I am very much like that. I always do like to be capitalizing on every single day, in a meaningful way. So yeah, that's what I've done. So I'm chilled now, and if you don't concentrate on it, and if you don't loathe every single day, before you know it, mate, it's over. And you've
Yeah,
got the
man.
1st of January, the sun's starting to rise in the sky again. The 1st of February, you've got the buds coming on the trees and bushes, and you're back into spring again.
Yes, the singer Sting, he did a winter album, a winter themed album, and he talked about how he loved the seasons because in the winter he would do those things that were more introspective. You know, he lives in New York City, and one of his places he lives is New York City, and he liked that idea of using the winter time for that kind of stuff. He said, you know, work on the music and do all that, and he would use that like, well, I can't do these things, and that's when the cycle of life is leading me. I mean, the cycle of the seasons is leading me to kind of be more introspective and do more of those things that
Yeah.
you would do if you had, you know, that you couldn't do.
Yeah.
But you know,
So
I get
it's
it.
very much, getting involved with the hermetics of life. It's, going with the flow. And
I love being in tune to the seasons. That's the thing. I like the changing of it and being in tune. It just feels it goes quicker. That's the only thing I didn't like. Like everything
yeah,
feels like it's going really fast because everything's broken down into these little quadrants of a couple months, and then cold, and then you know the trees are blooming, and then they're not, and then but in the endless summer when I was in California or Florida, it just felt like being there a year and a half felt like 5 years. It just
yeah,
because it's just a slow, relaxing burn.
yeah,
There's good sides to both of the things.
yeah, exactly. And
Good sides to
so,
both.
embrace it
Before
all.
I forget this, I started up. I wanted to say this because I was out the other day, and under the underpass of this bridge, there's an overpass, and under the underpass, there's a bunch of flying rats under there all the time, bunch of pigeons, because people feed them. So there's hundreds of them always there, eating these loaves of bread and all this stuff. So I'm walking through there, like I have to go through there to go places, and there they are again, and they start walking closer to them, and they'll flutter away. You know, they all take off when you come by, and they get right back to eating. This time, hundreds of them, there's hundreds, en masse start coming at me. And I'm like, okay, well, here they come. They never like leave. They just go scuffle off a little bit to make way for me. They start all coming at me, but they go around me. And I'm like, okay. I look back, there's an old lady coming on a walker, old lady. She's a lady who takes a walk all the time to the church right over there. They stop at her and they start kind of dive bombing at her, coming in and at her, right at her and back. And then I realize that's the lady who's feeding them all the time.
Right.
So they see her coming up, facial recognition. It made me think of one of your videos. I was like, these people say, oh, they got bird brains. They make fun of the brains, but they know the faces, man. They went
Yeah.
at this lady. They thinking she's gonna feed them. That's the lady that feeds us. She's swinging the walker at them, knocking them away. But you know, she created that. She's feeding them. They're just going. There's our
Food
master
source.
chef right there. You had
Yeah.
that incident once.
Yes. And so, you know, it's remarkable how many animals do actually have facial recognition. Um, Even down to robins. There's a resident robin in my garden, and as soon as it hears my voice or sees me in the garden, it's there, and it's waiting,
Crazy.
and it's often just a few feet away, and it knows the sound of the rattling seeds in the pot, and it knows where it's going to get fed and everything like that. And as soon as I start speaking to Providence, then there's activity in the treetops all around me.
Wow,
I can
it's
see the
crazy.
squirrels all bounding, coming for their breakfast. And so, there's you see the things that what I've realized about wildlife since I've been, still of mind and engaging in it, that they recognize every single movement within it. And of course, they have to recognize every single movement because they're always looking out for food and predators.
Right.
Now, when Providence is with me, sitting on my shoulder or eating out of my hand, she is listening to the smallest twig break 10 gardens away. And there's even like a sixth sense there because I'm finally tuned in to what she's listening to. And so I know when squirrels start to talk, I know pretty well what they're saying. But when I don't hear a single squirrel talking anywhere, her ears are up. She just freezes absolutely like a statue. And she'll be like that sometimes for 30 seconds while she's weighing up the situation. Then all of a sudden she'll bolt off me. She'll bolt up to the fence. Her tail will start going like this. And then she'll start. Then a cat appears in the garden. She couldn't possibly have seen it. None of the others were speaking about it, but the sixth sense, there's something in the air that she knew which was
Crazy.
being conveyed. Maybe she saw one of the tails waggling right up in the tree in a particular way. But all these things, and what I do know is when a bird of prey comes into the vicinity, which is very rare around here, every other animal goes deathly silent. Nothing cries out a warning because it's far too dangerous to give your position away to a very mobile predator like a bird of prey. So normally when there's a cat or a fox or a dog, the squirrels will all be telling each other, but when there's a bird of prey, they just hang close to the branches of the trees. They don't wag their tail, they don't move,
Crazy.
absolutely still. And all the birds, they don't say a word either. Everything just goes like a statue, and it's incredible.
I love that.
They know exactly what to do in a whole myriad of circumstances. And the birds all around my vicinity, they all know when it's feeding time, by a little thing like the flap of like several birds. Because when several birds are convening, then the other birds hear. How fast they're doing it, at what sort of a ratio, and with what sort of urgency. There's a whole million things that they're in tune to, and then all of a sudden, you'll just get a mass of them come out of nowhere, because they're reading these signs. And it's an incredible thing. And so just a simple thing, getting in touch with nature and observing them and appreciating their intelligence and being open to them being vastly more intelligent than we've ever given them credit for.
Right. Because you have the term bird brain. Like, oh,
Yeah,
what a bird brain.
yeah,
Meanwhile, they recognize that lady. There's humans that wouldn't recognize her if they saw her a couple months ago.
yeah.
But the birds recognize her. There's people that go, I don't remember that guy. They might not remember. Here's these birds en masse coming at that lady because they're like, that's the lady
That's
that
right,
brings
that's the
us the
one,
bread.
and I'm telling you now that, it's a very strange thing. I used to put, different hats on, I used to put sunglasses on, and I'd wear different clothes. When I went down to this beach in Portugal, it didn't matter what disguise I was wearing, that one seagull knew exactly who I was.
The mustache and the fake nose thing with the glasses. You can't even,
Got all that
the
going. Got the
the
the got
Groucho
got the
Marx.
Groucho Marx thing going on. You're never a schizophrenic when you're never alone when you're a schizophrenic. Yeah, got all that going on, but this bitch would be dive bombing me out the sky. And it got to a point whereby the other squirrels would literally say to her, "Shut the fuck up now already," and they would start to attack her midair by biting her wings and pulling at her because she was incessant. She'd just keep squawking and squawking and squawking and dive bombing. And the other birds must have been saying to her, "That was one whole year ago. Fucking give it up already." One whole year that bird pursued me.
Insane. That was one heck of a saga, that video. I could have watched that for an hour. Wait, and you had it called. You said, watch, I'm going to walk up and this seagull is going to, and you called it.
Yep.
Unreal.
Make a
Up
beeline for
until
it.
that video, I had not known that. All my years on the planet, did not know that they had facial recognition like that. That's crazy. But I
Yeah.
saw it a couple days ago from that.
And I think it amounts to more than facial recognition. It amounts to gait recognition. They can recognize how you
Right.
walk. They can recognize you from your stature. Um,
Insane.
there's lots of things that they hone into, and so yeah, it's an incredible, marvelous world out there if we allow our minds to become still, to perceive it.
Yeah, that's the thing right there. Like most people, especially here, in New York City, everyone's moving fast. First of all, they're already just walking down the street looking at the phone. So right away, they're not noticing anything, even if they're seeing, they can't even see it, let alone notice something on a tree because
Yeah.
they're not even seeing the tree. I've seen people practically walk into somebody coming the other way. I'm watching them like, let's see if this person looks up. Someone's coming the other way and they don't look up and they're like, whoa, whoa, at the last second, because they're on their phone. So they're not going to notice. One of your things in your book made me think of this now when you were talking about the holy sparks, right? In your book, okay, and you went on this trek and you came across your little
Tiny
the
little
little
flower.
the little flower, the five
Yeah.
winged. I can't remember the name from the book, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So now you were aware of everything along the way, everything you might step on that could pierce through your foot, every little how the wind's blowing. You're up there, you need to know all that stuff. Then you got people coming up to an intersection and sound of cars everywhere and their faces in their phone. We can't expect these people to notice markings on a tree. It's sad though, because they're missing out. They're going through their entire lives blind, I guess, or just closed off and numb, basically numb.
Yeah.
The
None.
phones are numbing them. Even before that, people probably weren't doing this, though. I mean, but it's sad. But listening to that chapter about you and the holy, the sparks, and thinking the awareness you had during that trek to every little thing, like this super awareness that because of the constant meditation through the years and you become in tune to that, you probably carry with you on a casual walk. I was thinking the other day, is he walking when he's doing these walk and talks? Maybe you're going to a market. I have a feeling that you're still probably aware, even though you're talking into a camera. At the same time, there's some things you're probably aware of. I've seen you stop and talk to people along the way. So they're aware of that. Some people, again, they're on the thing, they don't even notice people are there. You've stopped a few people. I think it's important that we tune in out there at all times because the holy sparks, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite chapter. I said early on, there were some other chapters. That one I liked because I had no idea about that, by the way. So glad for you bringing that to me because then I kind of investigated a little bit. And I'm like, wow, how much holy sparks have been falling all over me, you know?
Yes. Well, I mean, you see, the holy sparks concept comes out of Jewish Kabbalah.
Right.
And they have a certain mythology whereby in the beginning of creation there was an explosion pertaining to consciousness, and it scattered all these sparks all around the cosmos. And it was our job as spirits to gather up the appropriate ones, or as many as we could, on our journey. So we always needed to have the greatest level of awareness, because if you're not aware, you will miss these tiny little sparks. Now, when they say sparks, they don't mean flicking like a light.
Right.
They are opportunities of seeing God. And so when I was, well, goodness me, I've done it forever. And when I'm walking around and I'm making my videos, I always notice all the fungi. I notice all the flora and fauna. I notice all the animals, and very often I just stop and then I'm distracted. You would have seen me get distracted about something, start talking about something else, because my awareness is 360. And
One time you stopped in front of a church and the leaves, a little church, and there was all the leaves out front, or the ivy, whatever it was all kind of shaped like hearts. Am I right on
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you're aware of that. You're like, those people just going
Oh, but
past that. They don't notice.
absolutely. Just there's nothing that I don't miss nothing. And when I
Yeah.
go out with my
It's like,
friends,
how do they see this stuff?
I always say to them, "Where's your consciousness?" And they won't know what I mean by that. And I'm like, "Well, where's your?" They'll say, "Oh, with you, I'm talking to you." I'm like, "Is it nowhere else?" I'm like, "Come on, we're multifaceted human beings. We have God, cosmic consciousness, and you're just telling me that your only consciousness is concentrating on our conversation." What about feeling the wind and the sun and the elements on your body? What about feeling your feet on the sand? What about when you walk from dry sand to wet sand to crusty sand? My consciousness is absolutely acute with all these sensations, and I'm aware of all the voices and all the animals and everything. And then I'm always looking for inconsistencies and little nuances and everything like that. And then I would stop people that I'm with, and I would say, "Look over there," and they go, "Where?" And I go, "Just there." And then, like Mr. Nobody, he'd get annoyed and he'd be a bit incalcitrant, like, "Oh, what you see now that I didn't see?" And I'm like, "Look, if you just come here," and I'd have to physically get his head and put it exactly, because if you move 1 millimeter either way, you'll miss it, right? And I'm like, "Look, there's something down there. There's a very, very tiny little bead of frost on this blade of grass, and just like that, you can see it flickering amber, magenta, and phosphorus white, and all that." And then I go, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can see it," and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't touch them, and I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh yeah, don't you think that's a beautiful thing?" And then I gave him the concept of Jewish sparks. That is a spark sent from cosmic God consciousness to you, and it's asking you, are you aware of the beauty of this environment? And me, it touches me every single second of every single day, and I'm like, yes, 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 thank you, thank you, thank you. And the more awareness you have, the more appreciation, the more it sends you. And so you get many, many synchronicities all over the place. And I can sit by a stream. I love to sit by streams. You see all the flickering, you see all the whirlpools, you see all the nuances of the water and the light flickering in it and everything like that. And then you see the reflections, and you just see a whole lot of stuff. And just to look at that, I know that that's the cosmos speaking to me. That's why we came here. To have this communion with God. And that's the whole thing about Jewish Kabbalah, that the vast majority of people will never grasp. And I wonder why they don't grasp it, Tommy. And I'm convinced now is because you need a certain state of consciousness to grasp this level of stuff that was written about by these people, many, many moons ago. You can point out many, many beautiful things about the earth, and people will just go, "Oh, yeah, oh, I've seen that before." And I'm like, "You've not seen this before.
Right,
You've not
right.
seen this one before."
Oh, that's just a leaf on a tree, or that's just a sandcastle on the beach. Well, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
There's something there. Look, I think you even did one with this. You
I
were
did
looking at
with
some.
sandcastles, and I'm like, "Look, here's a sandcastle. The human beings, the energy, the engineers behind this construction are no longer here, but they've left this, and it won't be here. Most certainly within 12 hours, because the tide would have come in and washed it all away." So I'm looking at that now, and I'm like time traveling in my imagination, using my experience of being a child and building castles like that when I was a kid, and looking at the engineering and looking at the application of moats and walls and tunnels and bridges and turrets and all that sort of thing, because it's a universal thing. It's in our collective unconscious that we instantly do these things out of our imagination. Kids 3 years old, they'll be building castles without really having the concept of what a castle looks like, but they know how to do certain things.
I wonder if. Do you think like? Well, first, let me ask you this question because I'm fascinated by this. When I read that part, I was like, man, because I had never heard of it. So fascinating to me. And then I kept wondering, man, how many of these have been falling all around me and I didn't really notice it because I just thought it was something, oh,
Just,
or I
just,
didn't notice it.
Yeah, just before you go on, Tommy, I made 2 videos today, and look, I exhibit my frustration with the masses almost on a daily basis, because
That's your
I
trademark.
yeah, it's my trademark. I have the curse of having to do this, but I don't get the gratification of touching many people because they can't be touched. But what I'm saying is, when I'm reading my book, I'm saying, people, every single line in this book it is so deep, it's so profound. And if you could just slow down and read this book with a still mind, really reading it, critically reading it, and asking yourself what is being said. Do I have an experience of this? Can I compute what is being said? Most people, they don't know how to critical read. Most people, they're rushing through a book. They're just looking, give me the answer, give me the answer, give me the answer. It's like life. They're rushing through life, trying to get there, get there, get there. There's nowhere to get. It's now. It's here. Slow the fuck down. Open your mind, your ears, your eyes, and your heart. This is it. There's nothing else going on, people. This is it now. But you can't
It's
tell them that because they don't
it,
believe you.
it's a it's a in this day and age with everybody wanting quick fix. They can't stay on a Instagram post too long. Tweets have to be really short. Videos have to be short, or they drift off with onto something else. They probably look at this book and think, here I'm going to get to something here. They look at the book and think, well, look at it visually right away. They're like, no. But here's the thing, and I said this the last time. You could just open it up. There's headers on here. You don't have to do that from beginning to end. I do that because I like to take a slow burn and just slowly go through it like a meditation. Like, you can't speed through. If you work out at the gym, for example, you can't do 5 workouts in one day. You have to do the workout, rest, do the next workout the next day, do this body part, this body part. You don't have to sit there and engulf this whole thing in one day. So don't look at it that it's 666 pages. Just look at it as, let's see, what the fuck is consciousness anyway? And read that and then put it down and let that sink in. Meditate on that for a
Yes,
bit.
you once akin that to Marcus Aurelius' meditations.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
there's quite a few of the viewers who bought that book have that book also because it's a world classic. Now, Marcus Aurelius Meditations, you open it and you read a short verse and you contemplate that on the day. Now, my book, The World's First Spiritual Bible, is exactly like that, only it's vastly more complex and deeper. The subject matter, for instance, the Kabbalistic sparks, if people were interested like you were, and then you go further and you actually do go really deep into Kabbalah, then your whole world will fucking change. There's no doubt about it. That was one line of an opportunity of your world changing if you followed the Hansel and Gretel trail. Now, when I say what the fuck is consciousness anyway, again, your world will fucking change if you go into psychology. When I'm speaking about Plato's cave, if you understand the concept of Plato's cave, your world will exponentially change. Your mind will become the cosmos. As soon as you grasp that, every single page, every half page, every fucking paragraph in that book, I'm telling you, it is a literal genius. And I'm not saying because it came from me, Aaron Berry. It didn't come from me. It came from the cosmos. You know, it came from Plato, it came from Aristotle, it came from Parmenides, it came from God, it came from Jesus. You know, all these things are in my psyche, in our psyche. And so, you know, I just have the ability to be able to compile these things in a structured way and writing in prose, which is, you know, the easiest language for anyone to understand, which is very important with complex subject matter.
Exactly. Now, do you think now Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is very popular now, and I think the fact that that's almost like fortune cookies. You open it, and many of it is just something you could fit in a fortune cookie. A lot of them, and some of the adaptations of it, or the translations, I mean, really make it even shorter. Like the Gregory Hayes translation, they really fortune cookie it to almost like this distilled into like sucking out all the meaning. And I think people get like, oh, I'm not going to read even 2 paragraphs. They might think, well, 2 paragraphs in Marcus Aurelius, it's like 2 lines. And I think it dumbs people down too. And Marcus Aurelius Meditations is good. But after a while, you start reading it and you think this is kind of obvious stuff. It's just more important because it came from the most powerful man in the world at the time. So
Yeah.
like, wow, he's just like us. Well, yeah, of course he is. but it's just common sense stuff in there. And I'm not knocking it, but it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna die, blah 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 blah, or men are gonna be this way. You just gotta deal with it. But what I loved about this was, and it reminded me of like this is weird how to describe it. It's like a autobiography with the Holy Bible, with like a scholarly college, um, you know, essay or whatever. That's probably not the right word, but all these things,
Discourse.
yeah, discourse. There you go, all into one. And I don't think it could have been any other way. I was like, could he have? As I'm reading it, I'm thinking, could he have shortened this at all? Like edited it? Not because it was too much. I'm not saying, God, this guy just goes on and on. I was just thinking as I got deep, could it have been edited down? And I'm not kidding, but I was like, I don't think you really could have taken anything out, because it would have lost something. Maybe I'm not talking about a word. I'm talking about, could he have eliminated a portion of a chapter, a whole idea of a chapter, an entire chapter? And I said, I don't think so. And too bad for people who won't just sit down and read it. And like I said, even if you read the whole thing, you don't have to, because I understand, I get it. I've seen big books through the years, and I've stared at them and thought, I don't want to even bother. But when you think I got to go drive cross country, I've driven cross country a few times. You don't think California is 3,000 miles away. Forget it. I'm not going to bother. You just go down the road. You can't do anything but go down the road. So just think of it like a cross country trip. And each paragraph, you stop at a rest stop. You get gas, you get food, and you move on. It took me months to get through it. I'm not ashamed of that. I don't care. It took me a year. It doesn't matter. That's the time it took me. I didn't force it. I didn't put it down like for another book at the time, because I felt there was a flow for me that I needed to keep going. It felt, this is the great thing about it. And I don't want to sound like I'm kissing your butt. It's a good book for an amateur writer, because you're not a writer. You're an author now, but you wouldn't say you were a writer. You never wrote anything, right?
Yep.
So I was like, this is impressive. And forget about there's a few, what do you call it? Misprints of type words, and who cares? Those get fixed. I mean, Holy Sparks here, it says Holly Sparks. I thought that might have been a stripper you knew once,
Right.
but they put two L's in there. It's a mess up. I get the idea. You have people, the words, there's a word messed up in your book. It's like, oh, who cares? Holly Sparks, we know what it meant. But the thing I loved about it was the 650 pages, because we don't get anything like that anymore. Everything's got to be broken down and made for them. And I get it, because it will sell. They could say, hey, here's some 10 reasons. Like I have a book I'm going through now right here called How to Be a Modern Samurai. So, and this book is just a lot of stuff on how to be a samurai, broken down though. So control your mind is one of the things. But it's got a quote, then a little paragraph, then a double space, then training your mind, and a break. Step 1, pictures. And it makes it easy for a lot of people these days to just go, oh, look, a drawing. Ooh,
Yeah.
a paragraph. Ooh, a brighter colored paragraph. And that's all well and good, but
And
then
if
people
you
look at
only
this
have
and
a
they think,
paragraph and then you have a picture and then you have a big break in the page, it makes it vastly less intimidating. When
right.
people open a book and it's just words, 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 words.
The
Well,
Bible is just words. They read
yeah,
that.
exactly. And there's no
It's
fucking breaks.
literally, and it's tiny words. It's tiny. They pack so much in that I can barely read that when I look through
You
some
see, in the
things
old
in there.
days, that's how they used to write books. And this book, which is the second second volume of this book, when you
Okay.
open this, that's all you get.
I love it. Just words.
You
It's
don't
about the
ever get
words.
anything else except pages and pages and fucking pages of data. Um, and this book, this double volume consisting of 1,600 pages, took a long, long time to write with dedication throughout every day and every night. This woman was channeling spirits, apparently. And, she was actually in trances with most of the time she was writing this in different languages and different hand styles. She was Russian, but she spoke English and French and, a couple of other languages. And, she was exceedingly bright, and she was chosen for the job. Um, you know, and probably, it was responsible for killing her. Because she just got older and older and iller. Because she got worn out with it, with the dedication. Then she had someone who was a member of the Theosophical Society also, because they founded the Theosophical Society, and they, worked in incessantly translating, making sure that you got the right word from Russian or from French or whatever language she was writing in. Massive, massive feats, but when I'm writing that book, it was just a flow. It was just something, and often I'd come to the computer and I'm like, well, I don't even know what chapter I'm going to be writing now, and so I just have to go, well. Give me some inspiration. Give me some inspiration, and so I get sort of a message. Just start writing. Just start writing, and then the title for the chapter will be apparent. And so just start writing, writing, and all of a sudden it'd just be there again, and I'd just be writing, writing, writing constantly. And this went on 5 hours every single day for 8 months, and it just flowed through, and the additions I put in relation to Brahman, in relation to Jesus' sayings, and the concept of Christianity and the devil, and a whole bunch of things. It's just a massive amount of stuff in there that I had come upon on my spiritual journey. And all my life, traveling all around the world, I used to sit and contemplate, thinking, why have I never had a single second of loneliness? What's that all about? That's absolutely alien to everybody else I've ever met. I've never ever had a second of loneliness. And then I started to realize in much later years that it's because I never was alone. I always carried the spirit of God with me. I maintain to this day that there aren't just one spirit. There's not one spirit dwelling here. There's many spirits, and they come and go. And incidentally, I was reading the Book of Spirits last night, and I came to a bit, and I made a video with Andre, and I'm speaking and I'm reading it, and I'm saying in this book it says that there's a few people that believe that they are a conglomerate of lots of spirits, and they actually come and go. This book was written 150 years ago. And I'm like,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying now. But everybody dismisses it because of their indoctrination, because they've never sat down to look inside to see who the fuck is there. When you sit down and listen to who the fuck is there, then you'll know that there isn't just one.
It's crazy too because it's this weird like thing here because we're in a world where everything is, on one hand, everything is quick and short attention span, but like meditation and mindfulness is popular. But you can't really, like, if you're complaining that things are too long for you, or this video's too long, or I can't read something like this, but they're into mindfulness and meditation, which takes time. You have to sit with yourself. So I find it weird that those two things exist at the same time with the same people. Now, the book, I have the other one coming. I know it's the same thing, right? There's just paragraph alterations, right? And sizing in the new
The
in the
gaps,
title.
there's double
The gap.
gaps between the paragraphs in that book,
Okay.
and so that constitutes a difference of about 45 pages.
This one I'll give away on my channel to somebody. Why the name change?
Well, because there's lots of books called Closer to God,
Yeah.
and the misconception of it being about the biblical God when it absolutely isn't. So the name change now, a journey to the self, means exactly the same thing, getting closer to God. Only in the second title, it's a bit more apparent that God is the self, or the essence of you, because there is no self even. That's a misnomer. There is no self.
Mhm.
The journey to self-realization may be a modification of the title that I'll bring about in due course, because simply is no self. But lots of people think there is a self, and they understand that concept, and you can't make it too complex for people, otherwise you'll just lose them.
Nothing wrong with complex. I did find as I gone through it again, I'm kind of picking out some chapters I like, um, that I get, like most people will probably have never experienced. This is another thing I think people would have an issue with. Like, well, they'll read the back and they'll think, well, if I'm not into these things, like, duels with the devil, spiritual, celestial encounters, why read it? But the people that first of all, I would say 99.9% of the people that bought the book probably watched the channel,
Yeah,
right? I would think like maybe all of them, because
all of
to
them.
come
Yeah.
across this on YouTube, excuse me, on Amazon, someone would have to type in something and come across it somehow. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't think a single person has discovered it on Amazon. Every single copy sold, I'm sure, is a viewer.
So these topics are right in line with your viewers, and I mean, so yeah, celestial sexual encounters, duels with the devil, uh,
What's not
spiritual
attractive
ego.
about that? What's not attractive about celestial sexual encounters? What's not attractive about listening to someone's fight with the devil? You know,
It's fun. It's fun, and you learn stuff. It's like I don't know. Are we scared to know things now? Like
yeah,
younger people. I think just looking at like what a celebrity is these days. I was watching something and they were talking about a real celebrity, like an actor, was talking about what a celebrity is now, and it's like, well, it's just somebody that gets a lot of clicks on a video. They could just sit and do makeup tutorials,
yeah.
and they're like a celebrity. They're just putting on makeup, but
Mm,
because it went viral and people go, "Oh, this girl's really great. She's just putting on makeup." It's there's what are we doing with our time? And I don't want to knock people that watch that, but I'm sure these people just jump from makeup tutorial to another makeup tutorial to their mind is just putty. And there's got to be room in their head for stuff like this, because otherwise, what's the point? Yeah, you can go through life just numbing yourself and being numb and just like playing a video game 6 hours a day, or whatever, scrolling Twitter for another 2 hours a day. But that's just numbing yourself. And you're not living. I don't even know how to say this clear, but you're not really living in any kind of, help me out here. You're not, there's nothing real about that. I feel that if your idea of learning something and stepping up to another level is finding the perfect makeup tutorial and just like, I want to make makeup tutorials now because she's great. There's stuff in here that it's like, this is a stuff, explore your mind a bit. Is this, my whole point with this rant here is, what are we scared of here? To go quiet, go within.
yes,
I don't understand. I don't understand it. I
yeah,
do see this a lot. Like, you'll see people will do it if they go to prison. They'll start reading the Bible more. They wouldn't have read it before, and they're like, "Oh, I found God." So they'll have. Uh, that's a big thing in there. So I'm going to read that because there's time. Now they have the time now to do it,
yeah.
but they have the same amount of time in there that we have out here. You're just filling it with makeup tutorials. They
Hmm.
don't got more. They got 24/7. You can find the time in between whatever you're doing to read a little bit about the holy sparks. I'm going to push that one to the end of time because That has really tickled my fancy. Like, I'm just telling people about that because I've never heard of it. How did I never hear of it before, though?
Well, there's
This is
lots
the
of things.
stuff you want to fill your mind with. And it's
Yes.
okay to have, I'll let you get in. Let me just get this out. It's okay to have entertainment. Like, I'm reading another book now, which I like, which is, I'm reading this, Paul Stanley's autobiography. It's fun, it's entertainment. I love it. This is just as entertaining as this to me. It's a palate cleanser. I don't have to think. I like, oh, look what happened with Kiss here. Oh, this was cool. I remember that album. Yada yada yada. And that's entertainment, you know? Um, Shout out to the Jam. But it's okay to go deeper. What are we scared of? And that's what the question I want to ask you in a roundabout way. What are we scared of? Because maybe people are scared to read this. Maybe because of the page count, or maybe because of what will I have to do? I have to look at myself in a different way? Do I have to see things differently now? I don't want to go out and look for, I don't want to be aware and look for carvings in a tree, or find out if this is a holy spark. But I think it'll benefit you if you do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I just see these people today clouding their minds, and I don't know that they must. I don't want, whatever that is. I don't want to be that. Whatever that is in their head, I don't want to be that. Just
Yeah.
numbing themselves away.
Well, in the Bible, it says that when the final separation of the wheat from the chaff comes about, there will be 144,000 souls saved. Now,
That's it.
yeah, 144,000. Now, when you add 1 plus 4 plus 4, it equals 9. 9 is the spiritual number for consciousness. And so the Bible speaks in parables and codes and all different sorts of things like that. And all of the numbers mean something. They're indicative, they're symbols for something. Now, 144, I'm positive, is consciousness. Now, when you look at 666, 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. And you divide that by 2, you've got 9. And so, you find 9. 9 is one of the most divisible numbers, if not the most divisible. There's something about like 360 degrees is divisible by 9. 60 seconds in a day is divisible by, 9, I believe. You can watch videos on YouTube about the magic of 9. And so when it says 144,000 will be raised, well, those will be raised who are conscious. Now, what level of consciousness? Enlightenment, I think. Those who have dedicated their life to introspection, self discovery, knowledge, and God. Those are the ones that are going to be raised. What does raising mean? Well, they're raising in their consciousness, and maybe they won't need to come back again because they have reached a certain level of consciousness, like the Buddhists. They're endeavoring to get into nirvana by the purification of their mind and soul, and so I in this spirit book that I'm reading, it was inferring that not everyone has a soul. And this again has been very contestable by even my viewers. The shocking thing about my viewers who have watched me for years and years and years, they can't even engage in anything like this. 1 in 100 will put a relevant comment down to the subject matter I'm broaching, which it just tells me, and there's no way around it, there's no avoiding it, that I'm in a different level of consciousness. My consciousness is in an impenetrable arena where most people watching my videos, they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And they've got no inclination into that realm either. And when people, they say to me, "Oh, so Aaron, you say that we should know our psychology. So do you have any books to recommend?" And I'm like, just put psychology in Google or on fucking YouTube. There's thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people talking about psychology. Just make the first fucking step and stay on the path, because it never ends. But people think that they can read one book about psychology and they'll never have to do it again. But the point is, with what we're doing, Tommy, what you are doing, I watch some of your videos and I see that, you're pretty well doing what I'm doing. You're observing the world about you. You're observing how you feel about the world and your perceptions and this, that, and the other, and you're sharing this with other people. The vast majority of people don't have an interest. They don't have the level of consciousness, and that's the thing. Our consciousness varies vastly within human beings, and when we look into things like people not even having an internal monologue, let alone a dialogue with the self, well, that's very, very concerning, because the ramifications of that are absolutely humongous. If a person doesn't have an internal monologue, then there is nobody at home. So where are they getting their information from if they are not self-talking? They're getting
I
it from,
hope I hope not CNN.
well, the
That's
fact.
probably where they're getting
Yeah,
it
but the
though.
fact of it is, Tommy, they are. They're getting it from the canteen. They're getting it from the newspaper. They're getting it from TikTok. That's all they're doing. Their heads are being filled up with all this extraneous stuff, which mostly is meaningless. And so those people are the husks. Those people are automaton. Those people are the soulless ones. Because if you had a really fully fledged soul, then you'll be feeling the passions, the passion of Christ, the Christos. You'll be feeling this, and then you'll be in touch with the world, with your body, with your mind, with the essence of what it is to live. But the vast majority of people are not. And so I'm starting to make very grave discernments, which most people are not going to want to hear, but I'm going to write a book about it one day. And particularly in this day and age where everybody's supposed to be the same, what a crock of shit. There's massive differences between IQ. There's massive differences between consciousness. There's massive differences between the level of intuition that we have, the language, the portal to God, the portal to the cosmos. That's our intuition. And there's massive differences between the whole construct of what it is to be a human being. We can look into the eyes of a myriad people. We can see nothing. We can see there's nothing there. There's no light behind the eyes. There's no soul.
Do you think you talked about you'll make the videos and then the people will have nothing to input on it? Do you think they might be like, because we talked about not wanting to sit with yourself and like explore what's inside you and kind of deal with what's inside you? That's probably fear. A lot of people don't want to look at that and think, I don't want to deal with that, whatever that is, whatever thoughts are going to come into my head. I'd rather just numb myself. That's obvious. But then maybe with your channel, they think, well, if I say this to him, he seems on a higher level, I'll sound either dumb, like I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm ignorant, which is fine to be ignorant about. If you don't know something about some of the best, most of the best stuff comes from someone being ignorant. They don't know. The Ramones just start making music. They didn't know what they were doing, and it became that thing. If they had known what they were doing, and his influence is fine, but I'm saying ignorance is fine. Maybe they're fearful of like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Why should I input? But I think it's okay to ask questions. They think maybe you'll bite their head off. Some of the videos you're gruff. I say gruff but lovable because I think the when you do get on a bender and you start laying into people, there's a charm underneath it. To me, it doesn't come off as mean spirited. But some people might think, one, what am I going to input here? He might bite my head off and say, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. Or they just feel like their comment is not worthy, so they just don't make it. What do you think about that? And also, generally, some people just won't comment. They'll just watch it and move on. But the people who get something out of it and don't say anything, what do you think about that? The fear of
Well,
them think.
the people that have been hanging around my channel for years and years and years and have never even commented, or most certainly never come forward, um, uh, I think that the the paramount reason would be self doubt. They are imposing upon themselves their own ridicule, their own fear, and their own imposition of being dismissed and things like that, which is completely unfounded because I actually have hundreds and hundreds of conversations like this, and you will never, ever, ever in any of them see me demeaning anybody. You'll all see me listening. I'm the best listener. I'm a Libra. I'm the best listener. I'm a counselor. I know how to listen and I know how to help people. And when they're looking, to get stuck at something, then I give them an encouragement or I take over. And so they've got no reason, and it's completely unfounded if they felt like that. Um, and
Now
if
you're
they
talking about. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna say if they feel that, oh, this guy knows more than me, well, I mean that's a given because you're watching my videos. It's not like that I'm watching all your videos. No, you're watching my videos and you're watching them very, very regular. So therefore, we have a relationship whereby I'm somewhat of a teacher and you are somewhat of a student. Now there are occasions like I will listen to your videos because I will learn something and glean another opinion from your demeanor, what you express, and this, that, and the other, which is valuable. So I do listen to other people's videos if they make them. And of course, I encourage people to make videos. And that's something I've always wanted to do. But, what I'm always saying to people, look, those of you that have read the book and you want a bit of a hand with it, you want me to explain some stuff, come and talk about it. I don't expect you to know all this stuff. It's took me a lifetime. I'm at least, probably twice your age or, 2 times your age, you know. Um, so I don't expect anything else. But what I get annoyed about is your lethargy, your apathy, your shrinking violet nature. No one's getting any fucking where by being a shrinking violet. And I tell you now, most certainly, without a shadow of a doubt, the meek will not inherit the earth. The meek have never inherited fucking nothing except
You
their own
said
slavery.
you said you're the teacher, they're the student, and it made me think maybe there's another reason. They know that that's the dynamic. Many of those viewers that in a classroom, when the teacher says, ask the question, not everyone raises their hands. So in that moment, a few brave souls because I mean, a
The
lot of
ones
them
that
might
don't
know the
mind looking
answer, but
stupid, the ones that don't mind, feeling silly or putting the neck out. Yeah, we've all experienced that in school. There's always those that never ever ask a question, but they're always very glad of those that did.
right. But you see, most of those won't ask it, and especially these days, it's a computer. So with a comment, you'd think it'd be easier because you don't have to. Because boy, some of the stuff people say to people online, on Twitter, or wherever, they could just say the stuff they would never say in person. So you would think because you're your personality is very um, strong, you get a response from people, and because they're hidden behind the computer, you get a ton of comments. Now that
Yeah,
does
yeah,
happen with videos where you really lay into them, then you'll get them.
yeah,
That's just the way it is. You rile them up, and of course here comes the comments. You had a run where you were doing the Christian videos, and they were like flies to honey. They came to the comment section. But just a general video. Say you make one on I don't know, something benign like a cooking video, or just I guess those are the most benign ones. You know, hey, here's me cooking. Everyone eats every day, a couple times a day, and all should input on that, right? But they don't. Maybe they don't have anything to say about the specific food. But I agree that now you're not going to get every person commenting. That's just crazy. Like if you had 100 views, 100 people, they're not all 100. Say it's 100. Not every one of them watched the thing. They might have clicked it and moved on. It counts as a view. But I understand your frustration with it, with the no one interacting. The video is a tougher thing because some people are just shy and do not want to be on camera. And I'm
yeah,
sure you would have no problem doing a chat where they didn't have their camera on, right?
yeah,
But they would still be there in audio form. You would have
Yeah,
no
they could
problem
do
with
that. You mean
that.
I wouldn't give them any respect for that because I'm it's kind of like, well, fuck me, it's the 21st century with Facebook and all this, that,
Yeah.
and the other, and there's still shrinking violets around. I find that kind of hard to imagine, but yes, there are. The difference is, you see, 15 years ago when I started doing what I'm doing, the subject matter that I was covering was much more rudimentary or mundane, and many more people would get involved, and I would have many people always, wanting to do the video chats. But these days, there's a combination of my belligerent, tiresome nature coming out because I'm pretty well at the end of the tether, doing it for 15 years and, not managing to like save anyone or raise anyone or give anyone any confidence or
Well, you
to
don't know. Maybe you have.
inspire.
Maybe you have. They might not have said anything.
Yeah, well, that there is that, but I think it's
I
quite
mean, look at the holy sparks. Just that alone. That to me is something that now I'm into, and it's kind of driving a lot of the things I do. So there's one right there. So it's not the only. There's no way I'm the only one. All the people that you have on, first of all those people you have on the video podcast here, they're all friggin' great, and those people you hit. Uh, uh, Andre, and then there's the other American kid. Is it
Ziggy.
Julian? Another
Oh,
great one. These
Julian,
people
yeah,
are.
Julian's coming back.
I'd still like to see some of the greatest hits come back. Chris Baston, what happened to him? What a
He's
great
he's still in touch. He puts the odd comment in. I've asked him if he wants to come for a chat, but I think he went into some sort of depression at some time. It happens a lot. People lose their confidence, and all different sorts of things. But I think that the thing is with the intensity and the depth that I'm speaking at these days, most people just don't feel that they could really keep up or have any level of input. Now, you see, you come on and you're your own man, you got your own confidence, and you guide the conversation. And, it's a very relaxed affair. You're not feeling intimidated, you're not the shrinking away in case I bluster or, all these different sorts of stuff. And so, it's about character. And I just wonder, I think people with character are very far and few between. We've got people like Andre. He's a strong warrior type character. He's self-educated, and he's a psychonaut. And then we've got Ziggy, who's a self-made man, and then we've got Julian, who again is one of us. It appears that all these people coming forward are one of us. And I don't think there's too many us. To be fair, it's like that great movie called The Highlander, where this dude
Oh
came from
yes.
another fucking constellation. He come to find the others. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm a voice in the wilderness crying out for the others. But, they're literally, they're one in 1,000 or one in 10,000. There are, very, very few of us. And when in the Bible you see these analogies they speak of, they knew all those years ago that people with the ability to be able to receive this level of information are exceedingly rare because it needs not only a level of education and intellect, it needs a depth of soul, it needs an age of soul, it needs a certain character, and it needs a spirit. And I can't claim that I've earned any of the attributes that I have. They've all been a gift, and so I can't raise myself over and above anybody else of my own merit because I'm driven. I'm absolutely driven beyond any level of control that I would ever, fantasize about having. I just don't believe in free will at all. There's not a single thing that I do has got any level of free will. And so that's just how it is. But it doesn't stop me crying out to see if there are some more out there.
Yeah, those just the three people you mentioned, Ziggy and Andre and Julian. They talk on a higher level than me. They're much more deeper in what they discuss in it. I'm into all the stuff, but I like to flow on a lower level and just kind of flow into that. And I was never intimidated to come on here because I'm like, well, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I'm not going to come here and talk about like baseball, but I mean, I'm going to talk about the stuff that you talk about, but on the level I talk about it. So
Yes.
if
Now,
anything, if there's any,
sorry, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly, what I get from watching your videos. I like your videos, I like your demeanor, and I like the subject matter. But I pop in now and again just to see what you're doing. But it's like there's nothing really there for me because it's kind of like a looser version of what I do.
yeah,
And you've just said that, so you accept that, and it's your propensity. You're not as
yep,
intense as I
right.
am. I'm a very intense person.
I don't mind navel gazing. I don't do it too long. I like to take all that in and then apply all the things. So I'll listen to the Andre ones. I'll listen to all those. I love listening to those. Those people are on another level of the depth of what they talk about. Me, I bring it down. The point I'm making with that is use me as an example. Any of the people think I'm not going to go on there. You could come on here and talk about it, and you'll come down to their level of
That's right. I'll come down to
and
meet you.
talk.
I'll meet
As
you at
long as
your
you're just
level.
talking about whatever, just have the conversation. You'll flow with it. I have no fear coming on and saying, well, what he's talking about I like, we'll talk about that. I'm not going to get super deep on some of those more esoteric things because that's not how deep I don't want to go that deep. I like to ride all of it, but more flow beneath those levels. So anybody come on, he's not going to bite your head off with it, and he's not going to make you feel like, really, this is what you're talking about? Don't you want to go deeper? We're just talking. We're
Yeah.
just talking, man.
Really? You've come on here to talk about that? Are you fucking with me now?
I mean,
Yeah.
like, and all
So,
that stuff's great. I love that. I'll listen to it. I won't be able to go on and do that though. Like
other
the
than
Ziggy conversations, um, those are some of my favorites because, um, how do I explain it? It's a good pushback. I like that with you two there. He gives a good pushback to you, makes you go deeper into stuff. So I get that out of it from other people. Me doing it, I like to bring it down a bit, have a little fun, more lighthearted, but still touch on things that you've written in the book. Some of the stuff is very not out of my league. I don't want to say that because it's not. It's just something like, oh, I word it. I would not talk about it for 2 hours, but I'm
yeah,
interested in reading about it and applying some of the things. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I like that you have those guys on. I wish some of those other people come on, and maybe that's the fear of them thinking, hey, I can't just go on and talk. I'm not as smart as Aaron. I can't do that. Or I'm not going to be able to go into egregores. Well, then don't do those two things. But
Yeah.
if you watch his channel, you have some connection with him, or you're not watching stuff on the Yankees. So obviously, if you're watching Aaron Berry's things, you can have a conversation with them.
Yeah, that's
Even if
right.
you came on and talked about cooking or whatever, you'll still
Yeah.
have something in common.
So all the guys I speak to, I enjoy thoroughly, and Ziggy, he's the only one that um, will press me for any explanation on any of my
I love
uh,
it.
presumptions or assumptions or whatever. And I really like that because we need that. We need to be questioned. We need to be put on the hot spot. And the whole thing about writing a book, when you present your hypothesis or worldview, your theory of everything, so to speak, well, you leave yourself very, very vulnerable to all different sorts of levels of inquiry and ridicule. And so you better know your stuff. Now, the beauty of it is, you see, whenever you watch anybody on YouTube and they are got big channels and they're always being asked around here, then everywhere, it's because they've had a best-selling book and people know them from the book and they've got an exact subject they're going to speak about. Now, me, I speak about a whole bunch of stuff, but if anybody read my book, then they could go, okay, I want to speak about astral projection. I want to speak about what's your, stand in relation to religion or spirituality, all these different sorts of subjects. There's a multitude of subjects in there, and I can tell you, with some level of preciseness, where I stand on those sort of things, and that would make good conversation. The interviewer would know exactly what the questions are going to ask, and hopefully, me, the person being interviewed, knows what to say because I wrote the fucking book. And so that's a great exchange, But to get people out of that dynamic, when you've got people that have watched, I don't know how many of my videos, and maybe they've read the book, maybe they're 20 years old, and all this sort of thing. Well, there's big gaps, isn't there? There's big gaps, and so how do we fill those gaps? Well, young people have done it. There was a couple of young ones on in not too distant past, and I went with the flow with what they were speaking about, and I just sat there and listened, a lot, and then just prompted them a little bit. So we can extract something out, and it's good like that when we don't know the person, and we don't know what the dynamic's going to be, because it adds to something being interesting and inspiring. If people listen to me and Andre or Ziggy, mostly, they're going to know what they're going to get because we made a lot of videos.
Right.
Myself and Julian, we're going to be making another one. He's difficult to nail down. But we're going to be making another one, and then he brings a whole, different bunch of stuff into the equation, because he knows a lot more about certain things than I do, in his particular field of, ancient mythology and all that different sort of stuff. And he his mind thinks from a different perspective, which is kind of like, oh right, yeah, that's new to me, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's this stuff. Look, it's the spice of life. Anytime we have these conversations, everybody always loves them. Everybody always goes away invigorated, because that's what it's nurturing to the soul, isn't it?
Yeah, conversations is the thing. I love it. Like, I could do converse. I could sit. Some of my favorite things are just like in a movie. I'll be watching something, and if it's people sitting at a bar late into the night just talking, I love it. So I like things like Joe Rogan Experience, because it's like 3 hours, people just sitting, let the talking go.
Have you
The
watched A
topics
Dinner with
flow.
Andre?
That's that.
Have you watched A Dinner with Andre?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, well,
great.
that's a classic, isn't it? Two people just
Yes.
sitting the fuck down and talking. Now, you
Oh, I
see,
love it.
when Rogan, was initially thinking about doing those long podcasts, they're all under the general consensus that no fucker's going to sit through 3 or 4 hours of a fucking podcast. They're all wrong. Now,
Oh,
the thing is, it's like, well, who the fuck's going to be reading, a book with 650 pages? Well, potentially lots of people. Now, I
yeah.
mean, uh, where do you find these people? Well, I mean, people watching my videos, mostly, I would think, they're not working. And anyone that's keeping up with my videos are certainly not working. So anyone that knows what I'm doing and where I'm coming from with all my fluctuating energies and things like that, it's a bit like the Truman Show. They have to have been tuned in to really appreciate what's going on. People that pop in every 2 weeks to watch one video, they're going to like, what the fuck's this guy on about now? Because I don't give you videos about one particular subject, assuming that nobody knows anything I'm speaking about. That's not my style. I continue, don't I?
One thing I envy about the videos is you just will do anything. You don't care. I mean, YouTube's they got their eyes on you anyway. So you could just be like, I'm just going to bounce from Providence to cooking to this anyway. They already obviously they're doing something to you in the algorithm. So whatever. So I like that you're able to just do that. But conversation, uh, people are scared of it, but I love it. Like, I even got a paint, one of the paintings here. I saw this and I thought, this sums up everything I love. Okay, you got Rogan sitting across from an alien and a caveman, and that conversation's like 6 hours long.
Yeah.
He's talking in the past, the future. You got the
Tommy,
cosmos up there,
Tommy,
and I.
can you move your camera just a little bit to the left, I believe? That's right, because we couldn't see the alien and the caveman. Right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
You got the cosmos up there. So I saw that and I thought, this is sums up everything I love about life here. Sitting down and talking about the stuff that you might not ever be able to get an answer about.
You've got two extremes there. You've
I
got the
love it.
aliens, super
Whoever
advanced.
thought of this painting,
Yeah,
incredible.
absolutely. And he should be a millionaire by now just from that picture.
I mean, just like, and that's what it's about right there. Just like sit and talk, and you'll never know what you'll learn. You'll never know what you'll teach somebody. Don't be scared. Sit down with them. And I liken these people here to maybe the alien is Julian and Ziggy and Andre, who have this, you know, deeper thought on something. And then here's the caveman being the people who are scared to come on, that might not have much to say. They're
Yeah,
sitting down together and they're talking for probably 6 hours. You got the cosmos there, just explore.
yeah,
And there's nothing to fear, man. You're
yeah.
not gonna bite. You're not gonna get
Nothing
your
just
head
say
bitten
for
off.
yourself. That's a beautiful analogy what you just said there, and I think there's a whole bunch of truth to it. Now, I'm absolutely convinced that I'm an old soul because I read copious amounts of what it is to be a spirit, and what spirits are, and all that. And I most certainly have an adherence to old souls, new souls, because there's lots of things that I just intuitively have always known, and I'll be reading, kick-ass books like this, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. I didn't know the intricacies of the time and the place and the names of people, but I knew that. I knew that the Bible was completely plagiarized from the beginning to the end, and I knew that, I mean, I've never ever in all my life, Tommy, heard anyone say that the Bible is the first attempt at cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a psychology book for the lay person. And it's like, why don't people say that? Because it's absolutely plain to me. It's not the word of God. It's fucking ridiculous for anyone to even remotely lend themselves to think for a millisecond that it's the word of God. It's a hateful bunch of fucking shit. It's a depiction of the human being. It's the
Yeah.
fucking projection of a human mind. That's what the Bible is.
There's some good little stories in there, and that's the fun part. You get some fun little stories. They're pretty basic, kind of basic stories, but those are the fun parts of it. You got to sift through them to find them. But I guess people, it's interesting to me with the Bible because they'll believe it all anyway, just because of fear. It comes back to fear to me. We're talking about people fearful to come on and talk. I think they believe all that because they have to, because they're using it. The Bible is, people go to church because they're scared to die. That gives them some kind of comfort that after it, there's something else. The Bible is just all confirmation of that and more, piled on to make them believe that. So they're going to defend that to the end of the earth. I mean, they're going to defend it because they believe there's something after. So everything in here is 100% true. It's kind of like, I don't want to get political here, but it's kind of like how liberals will act about like anything Trump says. 100% of it, they won't, there's no nuance. 100% of anything he says is a lie or this or that. It's the same thing with the Bible. They're not going to say anything against it because that's what they believe in. They're 100% behind it, and they figure if they put a crack in that, then the whole thing could come down. They can't compliment Donald Trump because it's like, wait a minute, there's a crack now. I agree with him. That's not good. I think if I'm making any sense with the Bible, it's like they're gonna believe that because they're, I guess they're bots. So you're a bot, I guess, in that regard. You don't look at it and go, oh, this is BS. There's no thinking where you're reading it going, well, I don't know about this. They'll just be like, oh no, no, that's true. They're
Yeah.
never gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. They're
And
just never
so
gonna do it.
when you've got, like, let's just take, for instance, America with the election. You had I don't know what the figures are, but if let's say 60% of America voted, then you got 30%, voting for Democrats, and then you got like, so say 40% voting for Republicans, and the Democrats and the Republicans are nothing like what they used to be 10 or 20 years ago. In actual fact, they've
Like a
inverted.
flip flop.
They've inverted, haven't they? And so the whole name and the ideology, what these groups of people stood for,
Insane.
has been surreptitiously, without their even realizing it, inverted itself and changed. And now,
Insane.
instead of having the head here, the head's coming out the arsehole, and nobody's realized. And yet the name is the same, and they think they're standing for the same thing, when in actual fact now they're standing for the opposite. And like Joe Rogan says, he says, well, fuck me. I was always very much, a Democrat, but now the Democrats are turned into fascists. And I never was a fascist. I'm never about to be a fascist. What is it that the Democrats don't grasp about their fascist fucking activities? And all of the stuff they're campaigning for, to kill the freedom of speech, and to pervert the whole of humanity and all that. But without getting too involved in all that bullshit, what I'm heading towards is the mentality of the vast majority of the human being. They evidently don't think. They are complete automaton. They are bots, and this is like there's one very prominent spiritualist or psychologist or philosopher. It's a woman. She's an elderly woman. She looks like this little old lady with a silver perm and fluffy sweaters, and she's called Dolores Cannon. I don't know whether you've ever come upon her.
I think so.
And she says, "Oh, look, 90% of the hominids walking around, they're backdrop people. They're just extras in our movie. There's not many of us around." This is coming from a 75-year-old woman, with a blue rinsed hair cut. The only thing she's missing is fucking knitting, on her lap when she's addressing her audience. That's the sort of awe that she has. But she doesn't mince her words when she's saying this. That's how it is. And so when I'm looking now and I'm reading all this stuff, and people for eons have been saying that we're not all soulful, we're not all human. There's only a few of us that are going to make it to the afterlife, all the rest of them are going to burn in hell, and all this different. There's lots of truth in that. It's spoken about in allegory, and they use fictions of devils and gods. But at the end of the day, they're all projections of human consciousness and human being. The human being really, really, really is a very, very stupid creature. Can you imagine this, Tommy? It's only been, I don't know, what's it been? 200 fucking years maximum since the bicycle was invented? 200 fucking years? What have we been doing for 1.5 million years in our current form? What the fuck were we doing?
We're going to be doing even less now. I mean,
Then, Tommy, it was one person out of fucking how many billions on the planet that came up with a little bit of an idea about putting a fucking seat on a couple of wheels. And, there was no propulsion mechanism. How long did that take? It took the Industrial Revolution before, people could work out putting a fucking chain on a couple of cogs. It's ridiculous. The human being is thick as fucking shit. And the only way we can ever even proclaim our genius is because we all stand on the shoulders of giants. Because individually, we fucking account to nothing. There's one in a million bright spark that's going to come up with a bit of an idea. And, look, if you look at Bill Gates, for instance, he created Windows, he stole it from IBM. He's absolutely fucking documented that he stole that motherfucker.
Elon's the one brain guy here, and all the liberals hate him because he lets everybody speak freely on Twitter. But Elon Musk is one of the rare people in a long time coming along with a brain on him, and they hate him because he lets all the conservatives talk on there. They're not supposed to be on there. They don't like that. So Elon's now terrible. They bought his car, but yet he sucks because he lets
Yeah,
conservative stuff.
I'm not an adherent of his intellect because I believe or I know that you can discern intellect very, very quickly by a person's articulation. Now, when Elon Musk speaks, he speaks like a low grade university student, which probably got ADHD and probably got like a bit of fucking autism, this, that, and the
Yeah, I
other.
think he has like
Yeah,
Asperger's, maybe, I think, or
yeah, yeah,
something.
they speculate this because
Yeah.
that's what they tell the masses because the masses have been led to believe that people with Asperger's are sometimes genius. But I don't think that. I have never ever ever seen remotely the slightest inclination that Elon Musk is even remotely a fucking genius, and I wouldn't think his IQ is any more than about 120. And if you are telling me that he has designed fucking and engineered tunnels under the whole fucking city and drilling machines and this, that, and the other. Look, I know what it's like to run a business, and even a very, very rudimentary business. It takes every fucking hour God sends, and it takes years and years and years. Space, fucking rockets into space. You've got underground tunneling. You've got fucking brain surgery and brain chips. Then you've got fucking satellites and all this. He's not doing it. He most certainly isn't doing it. Get your head around it. How could anybody? What? How many PhDs would you need to be able to, manage all these things? How much education would you need to be the CEO of all these companies? To be able to sit down with your engineers and your architects and your designers to know what the fuck they're talking about? He doesn't. He absolutely fucking doesn't. He's a front man. He's a front man, and you know why I know he's a front man? And David Icke will point you in the right direction of all this sort of stuff. The British guy, David Icke.
Yep.
Elon Musk sells all his stuff or gets all his funding from NASA. Now, when he bought Twitter, he supposedly bought it from people who were trying to cancel freedom of speech. Why the fuck would these powerful people sell that fucking platform to somebody who is going to ruin all that and someone that was going to let everybody speak freely? Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make fucking sense. And you will never get to the bottom of who the shareholders are in X because they're all the people that fucking sold it to him, apparently, on paper. They haven't let go of it. They're still the same fucking people. So it's a ruse that he's allowing people to say stuff. What he's actually doing is he's allowing a certain level of freedom of speech because you keep your friends close and you keep your enemies even closer. So you have to allow a platform to allow all these so-called bad eggs to put their head above the parapet. Then you can see exactly who they are. You can gather all your data on them. And then when you want to run your night of the long knives, like Hitler did in Nazi Germany before he took power, then you know exactly who to target and you take them all out in one fucking night. That's why Twitter is existing. Nothing to do with his benevolence and his genius, and he wants the freedom of speech. The other thing is putting satellites up around the globe to control every single thing on the globe, to increase the surveillance and to know where you are and what transaction you do every time you take a piss and a shit. To know that's what he's responsible for. Brain chips, so he can connect you to the satellites. Do you think he's working for benevolent causes, or do you think that every single thing he's doing is working for the globalists, the powers that be? Exactly. He's just a front fucking man, and the public are too stupid to be able to see that.
So who do you think out there that
First of
any
all, Tommy,
public?
just let me ask you this. Remember that question, please. But what I've just said to you, obviously, is going to contravene what you think and what many people think. What do you just think about that logic that I've just presented to
Well,
you?
that's what I was going to say. What do you think? Like, is that because I didn't even know any of that stuff? I'm just going by what I'm seeing, the public perception of him, because
Yeah,
I don't dive deeply into. I've seen him talk on a couple. What's that show? Oh, with that. Oh, what's that guy that
Lex
wears
Friedman.
this? What's that?
Lex Friedman.
Lex Friedman. Yes, I like that podcast. I've seen him on that. That's where I get the long form talks with him, because he kind of goes into some of the deeper stuff than he does when he's on Rogan. But first of all, I didn't even think of it that deeply about him. I just threw that out there as like, oh, that's a guy, and it's a good thing because yeah, the public perception to me and to general public is this guy is smart. He's a genius. Look at what he does. But you brought up good points there that I didn't even look at because again, I just look at the guy that we see if you read you read about in a magazine. But you dive deep into this stuff, and I like that. Who do you think out there is the guy? Who's the guy that makes you go, well, this is a guy that gives us hope for humanity? Is
None.
there anybody
No
out
one.
there? Because
No
as
one.
time goes on,
Absolutely no one. Because look, even
yeah,
when
as
you
time
you
goes
you
on, it's going to be tougher.
if you look at Joe Rogan, with the biggest podcast on the planet, over the years he has become more and more tame. Because if he um, uh, if he if he applies any level of separatism in what he says or what his opinions are, then he's going to lose millions of pounds a year. In the early stages, he was calling the masses dumb fucks, dumb cunts,
Yeah.
almost every fucking
What's
verse, multiple times in an hour. And all his friends were of the same opinion. All those dumb fucks out there. He doesn't say it anymore. He can't say it because those dumb fucks constitute 95% of his viewers. And so therefore he's had to make modifications. Now, people like Rogan who have power, why don't they start calling out the things that we really need calling out? Why? Because he'll be closed down in a fucking instant. They will just close him down because these people, these globalists, have got the power to eliminate anybody anytime. And that's how it is. Now, when you look at Musk and you look at all the engineering skills and all the qualifications and the amount of study that he would need to be a rocket scientist, to be an engineer, to be able to tunnel, to be a brain fucking scientist, to be a neuroscientist, all these complications, massive, massive subject matter, to be able to do all these things. And he still gets time to go on Lex Fridman, on Joe Rogan smoking a bit of a spliff and having a whiskey, sitting down with the odd person, and he's got his family to manage and his kids to see, and maybe a game of squash now and again. No. Bullshit. Every single bit of it is bullshit. These people are not running these massive enterprises. The globalists are running them, but they need frontmen like Bill Gates, like Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg's as thick as two short planks. Can barely put two fucking words together. You think he's some fucking mega genius? No, these people are not geniuses. When people are geniuses, you can hear their genius because they speak in such a way that these people are fucking super smart. And look, there's certain people on the platform, and I don't know whether are you familiar with Yuval Harari?
no?
Okay,
Let me write that down.
Yuval Noah Harari. He's a Jewish historian. He's exceptionally bright, and he's exceptionally well read and educated. And he's out there on the platform. The moment he starts talking, it's not like he's Elon Musk. Yeah. Fuck me, that's all Musk ever says. And everyone's like, oh, Elon Musk said, wow, he's a genius. And the reason why he can only say, is because he's got Asperger's. And that just tells everyone he's a genius. Fuck me, just listen to what the man says. He says fucking nothing.
Do you think
Look
this
at
now? This
Jordan
guy, what
Peterson.
is he?
You must know Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah. You listen to how he articulates. He's fucking smart, right? You listen to Sam Harris. These people fucking think, right? You don't see any indication of that in Musk.
This guy, was it Yuval Harari?
Yuval.
Am I saying it right? I probably spelled it wrong, but I'm sure it'll correct on Google when I type it in.
Yuval. Yuval Noah Harari.
Okay, so now this guy, what's the main thing he talks about? Like, what's the gist of
He
what this
talks
guy?
about how we're pretty well heading for a disaster in relation to AI, because
Okay.
AI has become so powerful, it's vastly above human cognition, and it's not going to be long before it's going to be running rings around us. So he's like crying out a warning for that. Now, he's a historian, and what he says is about being a historian. You don't just do 3 years at university and to get a degree. You have to do absolute minimum of 10 years years. And that 10 years involved studying languages like Latin and ancient Greek and things like that. You have to read thousands and thousands of books and scriptures because you can't listen to anybody who just wrote this and said that this happened. No, you have to cross-reference it with every fucking thing. You have to do your own research. You have to be fluent in Latin and fucking Greek and Aramaic and all different sorts of fucking stuff, right? Multiple languages. And so he's done that. And he's wrote, several books. One of them, famously, is called Sapiens, and it's on my bookshelf. It's a good read. But then he's gone more and more into AI, and he's warning people about AI. But just to listen to the guy, he knows his stuff, and he can stand on a stage and talk for hours. Musk can't do that.
Do you think this guy, like, if he got like really popular, then super popular, like Jordan Peterson did, then he would probably have to they'd start doing the same thing they do to everybody, which is try to muzzle them. And then he might pull back and not want to say certain things. It's kind of shitty because that's probably what would happen to all these people. Because most of the stuff these people that speak out about, they don't want to tell the American public about this stuff. So people like this guy, from what you're saying he talks about, they probably don't like having him say this stuff publicly because it's not in their best interest for this guy to expose that stuff. So I'm going to check him out. I like people that talk like that and start warning people of these things. This stuff has been coming for a while now. If people think, oh, AI, I'm really annoyed. These videos, this AI, it's just an AI video. It's just an AI this. Well, I got news for you. That's coming whether we want it or not. And there's not we could do about that. Like I'll see some comments on here and some of these videos I watch, and people are like, oh, what was somebody said something once. What did they say? And then like, oh, I don't like this video. This looks like it was some Zen parable thing I was watching. This guy, oh, forget it. This is an AI video. I'm not going to watch it. So I'm like, well, get ready. It's all you're going to see is these. Half these things are going to be AI driven videos now.
Yeah.
They're not going to be people doing them. The AI voice, the people like the voice is so look at it. I can't listen to this. It's got an AI voice, Orson Welles or whatever. It's like, well, get ready. That's what it is. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what it is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The human being is almost obsolete. And
let me ask about this guy. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to talk because I never even heard of this guy.
let me
The book
just
Sapiens I've heard of. You said that's him?
Sorry?
Sapiens, that's the guy who wrote Sapiens?
Yes.
So I do know the name then. I do know the name because I know the book. So
He's very popular. He's been all over the fucking YouTube, for many years now. I think he wrote Sapiens about 10 years ago. Let me just grab a glass of water, Tommy.
Yep. Let me do that too. I'm going to grab it. Yeah, I like when you get all riled up. This is good. We get the good stuff out. When you get a hot under your collar, you go on the rants. Those are some of my favorite ones.
And I just start to free flow, and that's the thing.
I love it.
And put me on the stage with Elon Musk. I will run rings around that fucking muppet.
This would never happen. Because I remember the Sam Harris Peterson thing, which was incredible. That was fun to watch. I would love you on the stage with one of them too, man. Because look, you're just a regular guy in the UK, but so were they. And then they ended up, getting on TV and doing stuff. But you'd be toe to toe. It'd be fun to watch because you might blow their mind, not in the way like with like, but might be like, oh my God, what did we get? What are we in for here? This guy's, throwing some haymakers at us. It would be great
Yeah,
to watch.
I would come at them from ways that they've never been come at before. Because
Because
they're
they're
on.
very focused too on what they talk about. What I noticed with your book is I was like, wow, and I didn't know. So another thing I want to talk about with the videos, like in relation to the book, all the videos I've seen over time, they're deep, but they're streamlined. Here, you're really punching on all sorts of levels here that I'm like, well, the books I've read about people, they talk about this thing. Sam Harris will talk about free will, or he's talking about meditation, or Peterson's going on about the Bible, or how to, be a man. But you're really punching at all these levels here. And I'm like, this would be really good because he'd probably open them up. I don't know how they would handle that. Be like, who is this guy telling us? Even though you're older than them, probably, right? Or the same age of these
Oh
guys.
yeah, Peterson.
Yeah.
I think it's about 66 or something like that.
Okay, so we're a little below them, but you punch at all sorts of levels, dude. You
Yeah.
punch at all, like with this, with the guy you're telling me about, and the Elon Musk stuff. I'm not like, you're punching at all levels that you're going. Oh, no, no, no! I got something to tell you. Oh, that's what you thought? No, no, no! Let me tell you about Elon Musk. Let me tell you about this guy here, and let me tell you Peterson and Harrison and Sam Harris what you think you know and what you
Yeah.
don't know. It would be fun to watch.
And so, like, I'd like to engage with Peterson on the biblical corpus because I would present questions to him that would really get him twisting his knuckles. He's very often like this in absolute anguish when he's thinking about what he's going to say because his mind's contorted in so many ways. But you see, the fraternity that he's involved with, they're very, very much promoted by the Jewish fraternity. And everything is positive, what he says about the Bible. He's not like Richard Dawkins, which rips an arsehole in it. He's not like Sam Harris, which rips an arsehole in it. No. Peterson is pro-Israel. He's got a Jew's cock right up his arse, and he's saying everything that favours them. That's why he's been promoted all around the world. That's why he's riding through the fucking cosmos on a meteorite. That's why he's getting paid $100,000 for every presentation that he gives. You see, look what happens with these people in this world, Tommy. If you say the right things, then you are going to get all the fucking riches. This is the classic selling your soul to the devil. It's what Goethe wrote about in fucking 1700 in Faust. When Faust sold his soul to Mephistopheles for 9 years of sex and fucking wealth. This is what these people are doing. They're not saying anything that they should be saying. With brains like those, they should be exposing all this bullshit. They're not about to expose anybody. What happens is, as soon as they start to get on the first couple of rungs of the ladder, the powers that be will notice them, will go, we can use them. And so they'll approach them and they'll say, look, you keep speaking about this and we'll get you on venues. They become their fucking managers. And then they will get them venues all over the fucking world for 100 grand a time if you comply and if you tell the people what they want you to tell. Right, that's how it works. The day Peterson starts going against the Bible, starts saying that Yahweh was an evil dictator and a motherfucker, he will never get another fucking viewing. Guaranteed, absolutely.
Has he ever questioned anything or disputed anything in the Bible in any of his stuff? Any of the talks he's done? Because I don't
No,
really
no.
know.
He does. He does. He
That's the
doesn't.
thing. No one ever does that.
No,
That's what I was
that's
saying
right.
before about.
And he cherry picks all the fucking safe subject matter that he wants to broach, and it's a shocking misuse of one's intellect, and it's an obvious sellout. They're all fucking selling out. But I proclaim, and I'll tell you now, if someone offered me the same facility, I would sell out in an instant. Why? Because I have zero respect for the masses. And if someone wanted to give me 100 grand, a fucking shot to tell the masses what they wanted me to tell them, if it was in line with the sort of things I'm saying and it's water off a duck's back, then I would do it in an instant, because I don't have an ounce of compassion for stupidity and for husks and for soulless beings. Why would I? There's no fucking point. The soulless ones know what the fuck's going on, so they're all protected. It's all the fucking chaff that are not protected. Even Jesus spoke about separating the wheat from the fucking chaff. These people all were dealing with it throughout time. And if you read real accounts of what Jesus was said, like in the Book of Thomas, or like in other of the non-published biblical scriptures, and in the Gnostics and things like that, then you'll get a whole different fucking picture of what Jesus was saying. The Jesus that is presented in the New Testament is just a bunch of fluffy, wishy-washy fucking shit. Honestly, you write this one down. Write Ammon Hillman. Ammon Hillman.
AMA.
Ammon Hillman. He is a PhD professor. He was a professor, or still is a professor, at a university, and he's the most learned person in interpreting ancient Greek. And the ancient Greek scriptures that he reads tell Jesus as a child procuring, child trafficking, drug addicted gangster, basically. And even in the Bible, and I think it's in Mark, in verse 14, on the night Jesus was arrested in Gethsemane Park by the Roman soldiers, they came with swords and spears to arrest a little fucking vegetarian, meek and humble man. No, they came with heavy armory to arrest a gang who were child procuring. Sex cases. And Jesus was found with a prepubescent boy who ran away from Jesus naked. And he had a certain substance around his penis, and Jesus had a certain substance around his mouth. You can read this, and it even states that this prepubescent boy was running away from Jesus at 4 a.m. in Gethsemane Park when he was arrested. Now, one of the apostles said, "Why do you come with such heavy armory?" I am not a lay-stace. A lay-stace means a child trafficker. A lay-stace, a child trafficker. Why do you come with such heavy armory? I'm not a child trafficker, and yet a prepubescent boy runs away naked from him, and the soldiers came with spears and swords to arrest a meek and humble, fucking person that was just talking about peace and love. No. All fucking wrong. There's a whole different story to all that. Anyway, that's another subject. You see, the subject matter that I get involved with is massive. It's deep. It's so fucking nuanced. There's a billion things that I can broach anyone on. And I would ask questions to Peterson like that. What do you say about that, Peterson? What was Jesus doing with a prepubescent naked boy in Gethsemane Park at 4 a.m. in the morning on the morning of his arrest?
Yeah, I do notice last time he was on Rogan pushed back a few times. It seems like a lot of Peterson interviews are more like, not infomercials, but they allow him to do his spiel. I don't want to call it a spiel, but they
He
allow
just
him to
goes into
say
a
what he
spiel.
has to
Look,
say.
if he's asked about anything within 15 seconds, he will have twisted it into one of the chapters in his book.
Right, I do
That's
notice
what he
that.
does.
I do
Yeah.
notice that. It always starts right with somebody getting famous because of them. Oh, this new fresh voice, and look at the way they're saying it. But eventually, because of reasons like you stated before, and there's vested interest, Rogan with advertisers and what have you, that it all gets homogenized. I wonder if you one day became, there's this new guy in the scene, and you started getting this big voice for, say, a very specific thing that you talked about, how it would be altered over time once you became mainstream. Would you feel, I don't know if you've ever been asked this, would you feel that you would be like, I'd rather just back away than to just kind of homogenize what I have to say and not push the boundaries anymore? Would you just walk away? No one
Look,
ever walks away.
I
They
don't.
just, no one walks away.
Yeah, I don't have any moral standpoint, and I'm not fighting for the fucking meek. I berate the meek every single day of my life. I despise the meek. I've got no time for the meek. I've got no time for shrinking violets. I'm not about to exhibit 1 ounce of compassion. I don't have compassion. I don't even believe in compassion. I don't even believe in love. And if anybody wants to come on and you tell me why you think love is, within fucking 20 minutes, I will have you tied up in such a way that you won't be able to say anything except admit that you've been wrong, and you've been deluded all of your lives about this so-called concept of love, because it is just a concept, and it's a fluffy concept, and it's on the top of a whole bunch of other concepts which proceed from your humanisms. It's just about need, it's just about desire, it's just about sex, it's just about fear, and then they call it love. It's bullshit. Every single bit of it is fucking bullshit.
What about hate then? Is hate real? Is that a thing? Or is that, because it's like the other side of it? So, you know what I mean? Is that thing, is there substance to that? If someone says, oh, I hate this, is
Well,
it just like, no, you don't really hate it?
you say, look, the opposite of love isn't actually hate.
No?
It's fear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the fear too. That's
Yeah. So
interesting. What do you think
that
about
is
that?
the true
Hate,
opposite,
love?
because hate is a derivative of fear, because hate is a protection mechanism. When you're terrified, for instance, xenophobia.
That's right. You're right.
Yes. So
And I think about it. No, because, okay, I heard to interrupt you, but let me compose this thought. You're right, though. Now that you just see again, our brains are thought love, hate, you just think automatically. But I remember, I think it was during Black Lives Matter or something when that was popping off. They were talking about something, and the big thing was hate, hate, hate. You know, everyone, they hate that. They were pushing hate. Or Trump just hates this, is love trumps hate. And they were talking about hate all the time. And so, this is funny you said this, because it triggered me back to this thing someone said, and they were like, no, that's fear. You have a fear
yeah,
in you.
yeah. And
It's like
so
the hate is you're scared.
yes. So what I
So
would
you
say,
said that, and right away I went back 4 years ago, and I remember hearing that. So
yeah.
you're right, but again, my brain just thinks right back to love, hate, light,
Yeah,
dark, and you just
because
automatically,
people are
right.
they've been programmed. They've been programmed into believing that the devil's a thing and God's a thing and all these different sorts of things. Look, the devil is a creation of writers, particularly Milton and Dante. Two writers. Milton, I believe, was British, and Dante was Italian. And Dante wrote the trilogy of Power. No, Milton wrote Paradise Lost, and Dante wrote Inferno, which is hell, then Purgatory, and then Paradise. The trilogy, the Divine Comedy, the Divine Comedy. I've got all those books on my shelf. And so within those books, they create the devil. They describe the devil just as, because what writers use in their imagination. But then the whole world has took that, personified it, created a real egregore out of it, and now the devil's become real. The devil was never inferred to be real in the Bible. The devil was just a facet of God, which was the contester. So you could say, just like us, we have a way of thinking, but then we have another way of thinking, which brings us back in line. That's all the devil was. And so there is no evil and there is no love. They're just concepts, you see, and there's no hate. Now, when people go hate, 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 the word doesn't even exist. Hate doesn't really even exist, because when you look for the root of it, fundamentally, like I say, you just go back to fear. When people are terrified of a certain race, then they're going to act. So if you want to call hate anything, call it action. It's just action. It's action upon their fear. Action premised on their fear.
It's crazy you said that, because right away my brain just remembered that. And they were talking about that. They're like, oh, it's just your fear of this, your fear of that leads you to the hate. And a lot of it was about Trump or, racists or whatever that, whatever was going on. And they said, no, it starts with you. There's a fear. You're scared. It's pretty incredible, though. Wow. Two new things today I got out of you. And I always like this way. Come on, I said, he's going to kind of open me out because I'm going down the path. I got the antenna up. I'm walking. I'm seeing things. But I like getting into these with you because you don't fuck around. Now, do you have any like things? I know you're. I mean, the book you just showed me before looks that's very deep. The books you're talking about are deep. Do you ever read anything? And it sounds like an interview now. Do you read anything like a palate cleanser, something that's light? Like for example, I'm reading the Paul Stanley. Do you find, because it's funny about the Paul Stanley book too? There's wisdom in that. There's a thing where you start reading all this stuff or living that examined life, and then these regular things, you're like, wow, look at the wisdom in something he's doing when he was trying to make it. And you see there's little parables or little wisdom nuggets in there that I get just from stuff that's casual. So I'm starting to find stuff even in these palate cleanser books. I don't know if what came first, the chicken or the egg. Is it because I'm reading all these things now, the spiritual stuff through the years, that now it's coloring all the other things and I'm noticing stuff. It's interesting because now in just these palate cleansers where I looked at as like now in between Aaron Berry's book, I'm going to read Paul Stanley, or in between, whatever I'm going to read, Michael Nesmith's book. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I don't read any novels or anything light because I want to derive pleasure. I don't do anything for pleasure. I do everything for self actualization. And so when I go to the gym, it's for self actualization. When I go out foraging and I'm looking out in the natural world, it's for self actualization, being closer to God.
And you end up getting pleasure out of it. That's the
Well,
benefit of it.
there's satisfaction. The body gets
Right. But
satisfied.
that's not the reason you do it. You get that from the thing.
Yeah, and every single book I read is deep and it's esoteric, and there's a reason why I do this. Now, speaking to Andre last night, Andre is the same. He says that he won't even go for a coffee if it's just about the coffee. No, it has to be about more than a coffee. There has to be a valuable conversation there as well. Otherwise, he ain't going. And that's what I'm like. I'm a very, very driven person, driven to the point whereby I've spent this past 15 years in solitude because the last thing in the world I want is any distraction in my life. A sexual partner, a wife, or kids, it's the last thing I want to take me away from my mission. It's a mission I'm on, and I'm getting paid by the cosmos very, very handsomely. And how I'm getting paid is the purity of my mind and body. I actually am a self realized shard of God consciousness, and I know exactly what these concepts are because I'm given them, and I know them, and I can feel them, and I can intuit them. And everything about me. You see, all through every day, I'm in a meditation because there's no impositions in my brain. There's no, oh, you've got to do this, or you shouldn't have done that, or you need to go and talk to your boss about this, or, you shouldn't have said that to your wife, or, you've got to do this, you've got nothing. I don't have to do anything.
Did you ever read Total Meditation, Deepak Chopra?
No.
You ever read that? In that one, he's a little hard to follow. It's almost like a lot of his sentences you put into like just jumbled into stuff. So he doesn't make sense a lot of times. But if you can sift through a lot of his mumbo jumbo, it's about just every step meditation, and getting into that. And it reminded me of you when I was reading it because you kind of have that thing about you where everything's a meditation. Everything you do, you can see it in the cooking videos. It feels like it's a spiritual thing. Do you feel that people get that about the
Oh, well,
cooking
yeah,
things? It's like
just
spiritual.
Just let me say this. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but there was just a couple of bubbles that came out of your head and into one big one, and then like a ghost type thumb up was in that. Are you got some sort of a package going on here, or is that just something that Google threw in randomly?
On the screen.
Yeah, it's gone now. It just came up like bubbles out of your head, and then it was a thumb up, a white thumb up, like a white glove with a thumb up like that.
I didn't even notice that.
Okay, well, this is at 1 hour and 57. So
I don't know what that
write
was.
that down and then look back at it, and I'll do the same. 1 hour and
All right.
57. You get like a bubble coming out of your head, like a thinking bubble, and then it had a white glove thumb up in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, I didn't even see it. I can't see much without the glasses too clearly, but
Yeah. So,
that's odd.
no, I don't do anything like that, which is designed for pleasure. And very, very rarely will I ever watch a movie. And the only time I'm ever going to watch a movie if it's a psychological movie, and I think that I'm going to be learning or I'm going to be intrigued.
I got to chime in here because that's what I've been doing now. I don't like every single thing. Like with these movies, there's so many. Like I have to like it has to be something where, and it's mostly like you said, psychological or some kind of meditative movie. I watched Lucky, which was like that. I don't know if you ever heard of that with Harry Dean Stanton. Lucky, where he's an
No,
older guy trying to find. He was like, it was his last film, so he was in his 80s, and a guy who's just realizing what life is like. What's the point of it here? And he's at the end, and he has this routine that he does. There's that one I like because I knew what I was. I have to like vet these films first to make sure. Perfect Days. Have you heard of that one? It's on
no,
Hulu.
no.
Okay, that's a Japanese. Wim Wenders did that movie. Japanese. That's it. So I stick with ones like that too. They have Birdman was like that. I liked it. It's a little less like heavier, but it was about letting go of the past stuff. So I like Birdman with Michael Keaton. But I do the same thing. I have to. I got to get something out of it that almost spiritual. Like that. Like okay, I can take something out of that because it's friggin' 2 hours a day. I'd rather just meditate for 2 hours if I'm going
Yeah,
to watch, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've seen that. I've done that. What am I going to watch Kevin Hart movies? It's the same thing. I have no interest in that. Turn
yeah,
my mind off for 2 hours. So I'll
yeah.
watch things like you. So give me a few recommendations real quick of something you've seen that you think is that gets your mind cooking. You
Well,
don't have to now, but
for
if you
instance,
come
I'm
up with
actually
anything.
watching at this moment in time Graham Hancock's Netflix series um,
Oh, okay.
on all the monolithical, mysteries around the world. And so instead of watching a mindless movie, then I'll watch something which will go fuck, places that I never even knew existed,
Yeah.
in the deep fucking jungles of Mexico. There's all these different sorts of fucking buried pyramids and shit like that. The world is absolutely fascinating, intriguing, and amazing. Why would we just want to be watching some bullshit fucking sitcom or something like that when there's so much knowledge out there and to learn about the nature of ancient human beings? You see, Graham Hancock for the past 30 years, and he's British, by the way. He's been studying ancient civilizations, and
Yeah, he's fun.
he's always been hypothesizing that man's history goes back a lot further than the mainstream geologists give credit for. And of course, there's lots of people which state that the actual pyramids, or at least the Sphinx, is 12,000 years old and not like 3,000 years old. There's a massive discrepancy, with lots of this stuff. So I'll watch all those sort of things. And if I'm going to watch a movie, then I'll watch something like the movie which was with Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Um, I forget the name of what the movie was, but it's about on an occasion where they met, and how their work differed and this and the other. Mostly it was about Carl Jung. I'm absolutely fascinated with Carl Jung, the greatest psychologist that ever lived. Now we've done 2 hours now, and if you want to go on a little bit further, I'd like to ask you what you think about the simulation hypothesis, and
Yeah, that I have no input on that. That's out of my that's out of my jurisdiction.
yeah. Well, you see all these things. I mentioned it in the book.
It,
I
like I
mentioned,
said, I'm more like I take all that in, but my conversation and the stuff that intrigues me to go deeper about is in between those things. It's above the sludge, but it ain't up there with
Yeah.
Andre and all them. I ride more towards the middle, the
Yeah.
more casual things. So that stuff I take it in, and it's like with you know uh, with anything. If someone goes, "Hey, I'm not into Scientology, but I like their code," I take the code and I kind of use that a bit. So I take things from stuff, but I won't fully immerse myself in it and everything, because I like to ride with. I have a couple things I like in there that I ride deeper with, and the other stuff I just take pieces of it. So that's like I would not be able to have a decent enough conversation about that, and it would just bore people. They're like, "What is this guy talking about?" So that's out of my realm right
Yeah.
there. To be
So, I
honest with
mean,
you.
there's a whole bunch of subjects pertaining to that, and the reason why, I tie all these things together because they're very, very important, and we can see that there's a great deal of what can you say, uh, a very fine hypothesis because when Nick Bostrom speaks about the simulation hypothesis, he lays down a sequence of logic. And through that sequence of logic, he says, through this logic that I've just wrote down, it seems the most probable that we are already in a simulation. And I think that we very, very could well be in a simulation. And even people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is a cosmologist and very well respected, renowned, mainstream person, he says, "I'm still waiting for someone to convince me that we are not living in a simulation." Then, when you've got people like Sean Carroll writing a book about many worlds, the quantum physics hypothesis that worlds split off into other worlds through a whole myriad of occasions. And if that hypothesis was true, there would be trillions and trillions and trillions and gazillions of cosmoses, which keep splitting. But the point is that the math in quantum physics suggests that that's the only feasible way out of the Schrodinger's cat conundrum, because the Schrodinger's cat thing, where the cat is deemed to be dead and alive at the same time, well, that's an impossible thing in our dimension. So what they do is then they create scenarios with other dimensions to enable that to happen. So this
Okay.
is very deep and very profound, and if you're not looked
Yeah.
into it, then you won't be with it. Let me just segue into something else. Then let me bring it back to the book. And some people say like, "Oh, you shouldn't have included this," or maybe I couldn't see why you included that, this, and the other. Are there any bits in that book which you consider to be anomalies, and that you questioned why I'd put them in?
All right. Well, I touched on it a little earlier, but as I listen, I'm sure one of the biggest complaints from people would be the size of it. But listen, I don't have a problem with that. I've said it before very early in the conversation. I don't think you could have taken anything out. I think that's what you needed to say. Let me get that out of the way. So I don't think on a creative level, nothing should have been taken out. Now, certain topics, this guy might love, this girl might hate, this guy might be ambivalent about. So even with those, some people might not be into some of the content. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be there. That doesn't mean it's invalid. None of that. I think every single thing in here, and there was stuff in here that I knew nothing about. And you have to be into something. If someone told you, "I want you to read a book about cricket or the Yankees," you might not be interested in it. You might not even read it. If it's just a book about Paul Stanley, you're probably not reading it. If Paul Stanley is inside this, people might skip it. You know what I mean? I'm not literally Paul Stanley, but you get the idea. Something
Yeah.
that they wouldn't read, would they skip it? I didn't skip any of the stuff. Some of the stuff's out of my league. Some of the stuff doesn't interest me in terms of using it for me. Like I probably will never do a psychedelic, but the way you told the stories and the way you exhibit it, the way you put it out was entrancing. So I'm reading this going, well, I got to read more of this, but I got to stop today. Tomorrow we'll mark it. I'll kind of go back a page or two the next morning, grasp it again, and move on. So to me, it was all the psychedelic stuff, mostly the stuff that I would never do, but ultimately because of that was like the stuff I was really interested in, because I'm like, well, here, because I've heard people talk about it, Aubrey Marcus, I hear talk about it, Rogan. I've heard these people and I like listening to it talk about it, but I thought, man, this guy's got a way with words, the way he describes it, and it all happened to you. So you're pulling from memory, and it was the stuff that I was least interested in. Let me babble about this because I'm trying to get the thoughts out. The stuff I was least interested in somehow was the most interesting. The way you wrote, and I think the back, putting the stuff you put on the back to say all the stuff like we were talking about before, duels with the devil, and all this, and what was the thing about the broads in there? Whatever you had said, I can barely even see even in this light with these on. But you pulled me
Sexual
in with it.
encounters with celestial beings.
There you go, that one. I got to get 1.25s. These are just not cutting anymore. I'm in my 50s. I should be wearing 2.0s at this point.
I wear
But
3.25s.
What?
I wear 3.25s.
Yeah, I got to move up from these. But no, like, should have something been out? I don't even, like I said, I'm not saying this lightly. I don't think there's no words that should have been taken out, because who am I to say that? I could say what I liked or didn't like, but this all should have been in there, because if it wasn't, would I have missed it? No, because I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't in there. But I didn't read it going, why is he saying this? Now I have to go back to some of the things because I'm going to read it again in the new one, even though it's the same book. I'm going to give this one away, but I'm just going to read it again. And I thought, the guy's got a way with words. You kind of figured that with the videos. I've gone back and watched. I like when you put up the greatest hits, because I'll go back and I'll be like, man, you were calmer then. That's for sure. There was more of a, I don't want to say Zen state, but you were maybe Zen. You were more, maybe it was where you were. That can help. The environment. You were very, very laid back. Even, I know my girlfriend's watching it too. She's like, God, you love this guy. He's like, and he looks so different all the time. She wasn't sure once if it was you. And I'm like, he seems so calm in these. And I'm like, well, maybe it's the environment, but she picked up on it, because she's like, he's rambling a lot in these other ones. He's like rambling like a wild man in there. I'm like, well, he's this is what he has to say. This is the way he's saying it. So in the old ones, there's a calmness in the way you describe everything. But there was I'm almost losing my point here, but I did have a point. I went too far off talking about that. I lost my train of thought.
Let me interject here in the calmness. Now that goes through stages, because there's videos I made 6, 7, 8 years ago where I'm having the most vociferous rants anyone would ever have the stomach for, and so it isn't something that has changed over the years. It fluctuates, it comes and goes. Now at the beginning of this channel, when I started making videos again, having had a year off, then I was very zen, because I'd been meditating 5, 6 hours a day for one whole year. And I had nothing to do, nowhere to go. And so I was reading religious scripture and esoteric scripture, and I was philosophizing with people, and I didn't have a care in the world. And so when I came out, that was my disposition. But of course, then being back into the matrix, watching all different sorts of things with different sorts of people's energy, dealing with the human being again, and not getting from them what you desire, well, the ego starts to become more and more pronounced. I came out of my cave. That's what I've done. But, I will make videos, real rants, belligerent rants, and then 10 minutes after, the thumb up in the bubble. Can you see it?
My God, it's doing it again?
Well, it's gone now.
Huh. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
maybe they like what you're saying. Maybe the app likes what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to... There it goes again. There it is. There it is.
They're listening to you. They're listening
it's
to you.
It's doing it again now. Maybe like what you just said. I'm going to say this. Hey, bubble thing. Do you like what we're saying? Do you like this conversation? If so,
Oh,
give us the thumb up.
wow, someone's listening. The AIs they're listening.
Well, it's not giving a thumb up now. Okay, so what I'm saying is, yeah, my demeanor, it fluctuates depending on the interaction that I'm getting with people. If I'm not getting, there it goes again. It's gone thumb up again on the other side of your head.
Oh, I
Um,
just saw it there now.
right, you saw that one,
Wow.
right?
I'm gonna type this into Google. Why is a thumbs up coming? It probably happens to people.
Yeah. So
Whatever it
so
is, the something out there is liking what we're saying here.
yeah. Now, you see, the thing is about the human being, when we are in solitude, that's when we're going to get closer to God. And so that's why the book was called Closer to God, because I was at the closest to God I've ever been, because I've been in isolation for one whole year. And so then I know the veracity and efficacy of entering into the cave and into a monastery and, just fondling your prayer beads and, going to church fucking 10 times a day and all this sort of stuff. That stuff works because what it does, when you eliminate the egoic desires, when you can't have anything that the ego would desire, then it just gives up and it shrivels up, you see. But when you're out here, you've got all different sorts of things that you can have. You can have beer, you can have drugs, you can potentially have partners, and all these. You can have different sorts of conversations and all these things. And so the ego then starts to crave things again. But when you, for instance, we're in the proverbial cave, and you've got no chocolate, you've got no beer, you've got no DMT, you've got no women, then your mind resigns itself and it becomes shrunken. And then when the ego becomes shrunken, the spirit becomes more alivened and it takes over. And that is the thing that you saw. So when I was saying that I'm too calm to talk, I'm too zen to make videos, that was then. That was then. Oh, that was then. And so that's why it is. And so people they of course they'll get the misconception. They won't know what's going on. They don't know how the body works, how the mind works, how our environment changes our disposition and our personality. And when people will make videos and they'll say, listen, if you want the spirit of God or you want to embrace your spirit, your God consciousness, you are not going to do this in the vicinity of people. I made a video about this today, and I said, if you've got family, if you've got friends, if you've got a job, if you've got X, Y, and Z, you are not going to find what I'm speaking about. You are just going to think it's a fucking fantasy in my mind. But I'm telling you now how I found it, and I tell you in that fucking book. And so for those of you who have ears and a still disposition to read and contemplate between those lines, then you will see and feel where I'm coming from. But most people, they can't even get there in the feeling. They just read it like it's a fucking newspaper and they're just skipping through for the highlights and they've got no idea that they're reading a spiritual Bible. And it could be their portal into their own selves. It's called a journey to the self for a reason, people.
Before I get back to that, the question you asked me, I want to touch on it more. Do you think if you didn't have the channel, like you said, you get back into the real world again, and all the things pile up, and then of course the ego gets in the way, and then you'll have to rant. You won't be able to be as calm. Do you think if you didn't have the channel, because you're able to use the videos and be able to express it to the audience, and sometimes directly at the people who are watching because of non-interactions or not understanding what you're saying, where would that go? Where do you think you would channel that? Because like it's a good outlet to have it. Like I like the rants. I'm sorry. To me, like that's like, because I'm like, who wants somebody coming on there and make believing they're like, because all these people they're come on there, they're like phony. It's like they're never look. I'm not saying everyone has to show their sides on there and then be mean to their. Not that you're being mean. I mean, they don't have to come out and browbeat their audience. They don't have to do that. I'm not saying you do that. I'm saying so I shouldn't say, hey, everyone is just phony on there. They want views. They're going to do this, which is actually funny because you get good views when you actually do lay into the audience. That's interesting. But like, do you feel like that's good that you have the channel, right? Because you can say, hey,
Oh,
you
it's
can
an
express
outlet.
yourself that way.
Yes. Look, what it does is
You seem to like doing that too. That
Yes,
seems to me, it looks like you enjoy going on a rant.
yes, because we are conglomerate. You know, we are legion. There are many spirits in here which need to exercise, and when you look into what spirits are exactly the same as human beings, only they are in the ethereal environment, and they're out there in a non-physical realm. And then when they enter into the body, they enter into the so-called physical realm, and then they take on the physical body. But the spirit, it retains all the information, all the experiences, and all of the wisdom, and all of the hate, and all of the love. Everything that the human being does, it's a replica, only it's an ethereal one. It's like an astral one. When I go out into the astral, I take me, all of my experience with me. So I know this spirit stuff to be true. To be real, because when I go into the astral and I'm engaging with astral beings, whether they are people or whether they are shadow beings, or whether it's a Black Panther or whether it's a little gremlin, any of these things, I'm there thinking about that's a fucked up little fucking gremlin, or that's a fucking, weird fucking sexual predator shadow being. I'm fully compass mentis when I'm there. And so, there are many spirits within me, and I believe that in due course, when humanity finally evolves, there's going to be many more people speaking about what I'm saying. And, I think that I'm going to be probably one of the first to write this book in modern times, and expressing how I know. You see, this is the thing. This is about the difference between me and Marcus, whatever his name is, and Rogan, and all these people. They'll talk about what they saw in a DMT or psychedelic experience, but they won't relate that to anything. I relate this stuff to actual fucking spiritualism. I relate it to mythology. I relate it to what people have been speaking about for thousands of years. I relate what I've seen to the Bible, how people in the Bible have wrote about seeing very, very similar things. And I go, look, these people in the Bible, they are obviously on psychedelics because they're having these visions, and people do write books about this, like Dr. Rick Strassman, who wrote the God Molecule about DMT. He went on to write the sequel, suggesting that the vast majority of the prophets in the Bible were on psychedelics. That's where all their visions came from.
Aubrey Marcus, for clarification, he does go into some stuff. He gets into some of the stuff you do, not as deep, and he obviously hasn't written about it, but because he has the podcast, he has gone into some stories and things relating to things. But getting back to this, yeah, I know it sounds like BS, but I don't think there was anything, because like I said, you don't have to like something, but it's good writing and you get something out of it. I just think it's daunting for people. It's sad though that people will look at this and not read it, because I've said it before, and you've made thousands of videos in your life. People will say, I'm not gonna, why buy this? I just watch his videos. He talks about it. But it's funny because I don't think, and seems impossible, but in 600 and some odd pages, I haven't heard one of these things retold outside of you reading them on the air from the book before the book came out. You ever mention any of this stuff in the detail? So it's literally like 100% new content.
Yes.
Like there's nothing. So I don't even understand if people are saying that. No, you can't just watch the videos. It's, first of all, he's just going on a little rant down the street or in his living room. That's different. This is a guy sitting down, getting downloads, taking all this stuff, and it's spilling out onto the paper in a different way than you're doing it in the video. And it's deeper. It's in the word, with the written word, you're able to process. You can stop and just keep reading. You're not going to keep rewinding a video and listening to you say the same words again.
Yeah.
Here, you stop and you go, let me read that again. I've done it a bunch of times in this. Wait, we'll go back. I said, well, I'm tired. I'm going to pick this up in the morning. I'm just going to read that again and springboard into the next thing. And again, not to toot your horn here, but it's like people are just thinking, what is this? What is this? Well, I'm not going to read that. I got videos. Dude, guys, this is something, a whole different beast. It's a whole different beast, and a great idea changing the name, too. Because, again, people, of course, they're going to see the word God, and people only think of one thing. Yep. They just think of a very insular way of the word God. But no, don't take anything out of this. Edit one thing, you're editing a million things. That's the way I
Yeah.
see it. Because
And
then you'll just start chopping more.
yeah.
This isn't good enough, then maybe this isn't. Don't touch it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't take anything out, but I just
If
wanted
they
to know.
can't get if they can't get it, they can't get it.
Yeah, I wanted to know whether you thought any of it was incongruous. But you see, that book pertains to 15 years of my spiritual awakening from the very, very beginning. Well, even before the beginning, I've got the prelude in there, the preface, which introduces to the person, to the reader, to the sort of person I was before this
That was a
happened.
great choice too. I had my girlfriend read that. Sorry to cut you off because I'll forget the thought. So I said, just read this and don't think anything. Don't think anything. Just read it and then give me your input on it. Like, what do you think we just read? And she knows it was the intro because it was the beginning. She says that's a great way to kick the book off. She doesn't know anything about it except seeing like who's this guy you're watching. So that's a compliment there. She's like, well, that's a good way to start something like this off. A book of that size. It
Yeah,
kind of rolls you down the hill.
got to be done. Got to be
Yeah,
done.
it rolls you down the hill nicely. Now you're off.
Yeah.
Now everything you read after that, you have what you read in the preface in your head, and you get it all. You get
You
it.
have the cornerstone, you have the foundation to where it all began, and all the things I include in there um, are things that I encountered along my journey. And of course, I've read thousands of books during this 15 years and watched hundreds of thousands of videos. So I'm only scraping the fucking surface in 650 pages. But I needed to include the facets of what um, most people on the spiritual journey would have encountered. They would have questioned, do I believe in the Big Bang? Do I believe in the Christian Bible? Do I believe in religion in general? What are my feelings about spirituality? Do I believe in the spirit? Are there more spirits? Do I have experience with psychedelics? Have I ever left my body? What do I know about the mind and my own psychology? What do I know about other facets of religions and ideologies around the world, like Buddhism and Brahmanism, and facets like that to have a comparison to? Because we need to know all of these things if we are going to be wholly spiritually awoken. Because if people think being spiritually awoken is lighting a few candles and caressing crystals, then they are wholly misguided. Being spiritually awoken means that you awake yourself to the spirits within you and the spirits within other people and the spirits all around you and how to get in touch with them. That's what being spiritually awoken really means. None of this fluffy bullshit with candles and fucking crystals.
So do you want ultimately the people who read this to take away what do you want them to gain from the book? Do you want them to believe what you're saying as some truth, or do you want them to say, I hope this helps you on your journey? Like when you're writing it, obviously everybody does something creative. Every video you put out, you want somebody to get something out of it. Ultimately, when you finished with it, you hit send off to the publisher. What was the ultimate thing that you wanted people to get from it? Because it's pretty not all over the place. It's expansive, and there's a lot of things that they can get from it. It could be a thing that helps them on their spiritual journey. It could be a belief system. It could be now disbelief in something. But what would you want them? You said, I hope this is what they take out of it, because it's your life.
Yeah, well, I
It's an
mean,
autobiography at the heart of it.
yeah, it's a spiritual autobiography. Now, primarily, it was something that the cosmos commissioned me to do. And so, if I was asked what really do I want people to take from it, it's not like I want them to take anything from it, like I'm trying to impress something that they should have. It's more like you are watching my videos, and so if you want the full picture, then read the fucking book. Because if you don't read the book, you only are like flicking channels on a news channel, or between 20 news channels. You're just going to get a little bite of information here, a little bite of information there, and then you're going to delude yourself that you know the story when you've not listened to the story in its entirety, and you've not read the prelude to the story from the journalist who went there into a war-torn country or
Right.
whatever it
That's a good
was.
way to look at it.
Yeah, you see, look, people who are watching my videos, I'm assuming that they are on the spiritual path. They do have a deep interest in their own psychology and spirituality, because that's all I fucking talk about. And so, if you don't want to be simpletons like water boatmen sleeping on the top of a two-dimensional fucking membrane, if you want to be able to dive deep and you want to fly high, you have to read the fucking book, because like just what you said, it's a whole different ball game. And look, whenever I listen to somebody that I'm impressed with on YouTube, have you heard of Ian McGilchrist?
I think I have. I have heard of him.
Okay, well, he's what's called a polymath, which means that he has a vast amount of knowledge in a vast amount of subjects. And he writes about the brain, the split hemispheres and all they do, and the neuroscience to it, and the psychology and all that. And he's a psychiatrist by profession. And it took him 10 years to write this book, which I've got on my shelf. And it's called The Master and His Emissary. And the master is the spirit, and the emissary is the ego. And so what he's saying is, look, the master really is in control of this vessel, but the ego thinks that it is, when really it's not. It's just a messenger guy, But that book took 10 years of research and study to write. And it also came on the back of another book, which took him another 10 years to write. So for him to write that book, effectively, it took him all of his life, all of his professional career in psychiatry and all the rest of it. And he gathered up an enormous amount of knowledge, and then he presented it in 550 pages. That's the sort of book that you have to seriously contemplate on, and you have to have an enormous amount of other knowledge to be able to even get remotely where he's coming from. In the old days, sorry, one more thing. In the old days, Tommy, when people used to write like Jung and Freud and these sorts of people, they would be writing to an educated audience. They wouldn't be fucking around writing for the layperson, because they would never ever get in a million years what they're speaking about. So they used to write to the psychological fraternity of educated people, and they would always mention this person, that person, and another document and another paper. And if you didn't know all these people and these papers, then you'd only have a fraction of the fucking picture. So therefore, the educated, learned person within that realm did know all these people, did read all these papers. It's a bit like today. If, say, like we've got a group of like so-called truth seekers, and you say, oh, you know Joe Rogan, yeah, do you know Jordan Peterson, do you know Sam Harris, do you know Richard Dawkins, yeah, and all these people, we go, oh, yeah, we're familiar with all those people, so you've got the picture. Well, that's how it was in the old days. Only you'd have to be reading books, papers, and writing letters to each other. And so it's in every one of those pages there is a lifetime of study which has gone into that, and people who are familiar with the subjects that I'm speaking about will be able to decipher it. It's like being able to decipher the Bible. If you don't know ancient Greek or Aramaic, or if you don't know the history of the times, you don't know what the fuck you're reading. You've got to be able to smell the shit on the bottom of a person's sandal at that time to know
Right.
what that person's talking about,
So I do want to talk just a little bit more about the guts of everything here. You say you're going to write, if the sales of the book rise above a certain number. I saw that recently. You're going to write your second book, Prison Chronicles.
Yeah.
If that happens, are you going to angle it through as a what you, I guess, as a spiritual journey through prison, like how you came in this way and came out that way? Is it going to be that going to be the through line in there, spiritual, or more
Absolutely.
just a basic? Here's what happened.
No,
Because
no,
I
no.
like the idea of a spiritual journey
Yeah,
through there.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
book is going to be a spiritual, philosophical,
good.
psychological, metaphysical, human journey. It's going to be encompassing all of what I've written in that. Only you're going to be getting a day-to-day account of the reflections of these spirits, this human being in a very hostile environment
See, this
with
is such
all.
a great idea. I'm going to tell you why. Because it, a lot of people see have an idea of what goes on there. Some people have been in there, and then we never equated. There's never like a spiritual discussion about it ever. People will find God in there. They don't come out and talk about it in a book ever that way. I don't know any of it do it. And I think the way you would do it, I think this is such a great idea. If people can get that number up to where you need it, how friggin' interesting would this be? Almost like you said, because you have a great memory, obviously, to remember like these daily things. Did you keep a notes of things along the way, or
No,
you're gonna pull from?
I have a very, very good memory.
This will be really, really interesting. I remember I read Little Wayne, was it? He did something in prison, and he went through. He talked. He had a book. I think it's Little Wayne. I can't remember. And so good. And there was some little nuggets like that in there because you're gonna have introspection in there a lot of time. Um, and those parts were the most interesting to me. And when you said they were gonna do that, I'm like, well, this will be good through the prism of this. This will be again unlike anything we'll have seen. I think that would do better. Again, marketing's the tough. You can't market the damn book except on your channel. It really sucks. It
Yeah.
really sucks because this thing's really fun. You know, the books you recommend to me, I guarantee you they're for the average person because they might not like the what was the book you were holding up before written by the lady? What's the name of it that you're presently reading?
Isis Unveiled.
Okay, this one. Someone you show that picture to a majority of your audience, they might be like, okay, I'll read it. I don't really know her. They know you, and so it makes it even more intriguing because you can put a personality behind it. You know what I mean? That does help. That's why I thought there'd have been more sales. They're like, oh, I know Aaron. Now I'm going to get to read about his stuff. This second book, I hope it comes to pass, will be.
Well, look, the second post book will come to pass, but the videos
Oh,
may
he's so
not.
good.
The videos may not manifest because the videos, there's going to be, I don't know, in excess of 100, probably 200. I've got no idea because
God.
when I start talking about something, I talk in such intricacy and such depth that if I'm just about me being arrested, I could speak 10 hours about on all the emotional ramifications of that. I'm going to be speaking about my emotional state throughout the whole of the journey. For the first 6 months, I was reading, of course, every single day, 10, 12 hours a day, and I was meditating for 5. So, I read an enormous amount. For the first 6 months, I read mostly Buddhism. Then for the second 6 months, I read mostly Christianity and all pertaining facets, and I was doing experiments, like it says in the book, into faith and what is Jesus, into prayer, into confession, and I was communicating with 3 of the prison pastors, and I was attending Bible clubs, classes, and all different sorts of things. It's massively deep, and all the people I met, I'll give a psychological profile of the so-called friends I had, and cellmates, and the monsters I met, and the evil that permeated, those places. Fucking dark, mate. Fucking dark. Some of them.
And I mean, meditating 5 hours a day, that helps 100% dealing with that. That probably put you in such a different state because I'm thinking, where does the mind go? 5
Oh
hours
man.
of that. Like,
Initially, this is when
oof.
I wrote about the devil offering me the facility to take my life. He laid that on the line, very, very plain, and exactly how I could do it. And that was the state of my mind in my despair. And to be quite frank, the only thing that probably preventing me from doing it is the fact that I have a beautiful daughter. Who will be absolutely devastated. But when you are compromised to such a level and you're living in hell, I know what hell's like. I've fucking been there. And so when you are living that, then you're going to get these voices in your head, and you ain't going to know for sure whether it's just a little voice in your head or it is in actual fact the devil himself, because the aura hangs thick in the air.
Couple questions related to this, and rewinding a bit, if you don't mind. Your daughter, does she have a philosophical leaning because of you? Because I noticed a lot of times when the parent is like that, the child kind of is, what's going on here? My dad or my mom, they're really thinking, and they kind of slide into that. Has she kind of slid into that way of thinking to look at things a little differently?
Oh yeah, because she's the apple of my eye. She's my only child, and she's a daddy's girl. And all of her life, she has been listening to my stories and my perspective. And I have been counselling her throughout all of her life, in everything that she endeavours to do. And I'm always sending her important videos and buying her, important books. And every conversation we have is a psychological,
Right.
investigation. We're not just talking about the fucking weather.
Right.
She gets that from my mum. But from me, well, she's got her own counselor. It's not many people that have got like a spiritual author for a dad.
I was just
Um,
going to say that's a good, you can steer her in ways that most parents can't.
yeah,
It's
And
good.
I tell her about all the profound psychedelic experiences that I have, and all the different ones I try, and she knows the intricacies of what I went through, in prison, and as to why, and all that. Yeah, so she's pretty well an old soul as well. She's very wise, and intuitive, and so she's like a chip off the old block.
Nice. Now, do you think, like, if you said you're going to do possible videos as well, like a video journal of the
Yeah.
story, would you do it in, like, because you said it'd just be good, well, 100 videos or more. What about the idea of like each one being like a day, and then the next, and that's too much because you're not going to remember every day, but like a here's what from, because you very well can't remember every day, right? Or
Yeah.
can you? I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but each video may be like, and here's this day, and then like 3 days later you remembered some. Here's another day, to break it up a little more. Because how were you planning to just do that through the videos? Just
Well,
randomly rant for a while?
in the videos, I have to take myself back, contemplatively, in meditations, and I have to work through sequentially, and then I have to apply the emotions to the time and the place, and then I compile things. And as I look across the say like the skim across the top of those 362 days, then I'm going to pick out the salient parts of it. And uh, doubtless, if I did make the videos, then I would need to regress, because I've missed some bits out. But the beauty of the book is, you see, I will start writing the book, and I'll put the salient parts down, and then I can keep going back and going back and going back and filling in. And that's how I wrote this book. I just start writing stuff down to get the main theme of it, and then I read through it again, and I cut and paste, and I enlarge and I take out, and it's a massive massive job, you know, to write a
Oh,
book.
of course, of
And
course.
you know, to do all your own editing. I did all my own editing, and in that book, I would think there's less than 20 grammatical errors. I could only find about 6 or 7 when I read it. I don't know how many you came upon, but
Just a couple. Some of them are good, like Holly Sparks. That ended up being good.
yeah,
An extra
that's a
L
good
in
one.
there. It worked.
I want to meet her. I hope to meet her.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think you did. You might not have known. You probably did meet her. But
But yeah,
like I
you know, to get all of that grammar with a quarter of a million words, with you know a dozen small grammatical errors, is really something. Because there's many books that I read that are quite appalling, and you're like, you know, who the fuck did this editing? Who the fuck's doing this? You know, but
be,
because of
be,
me, because I'm very pedantic, I went over and over and over and over and over, and I even bought a package which would read it to me. You've got people like rap stars and fucking Morgan Freeman and all these voices which will, you know, read the book for you.
yeah.
So I bought this package just to sit down and allow somebody else to read it to me to see what it sounded like coming from another person. You know, then I could listen to it in you know audibly instead of reading it, and you know it's very powerful. But yeah, the prison thing is you know it would be monumental because it is coming from a spiritually versed person, a philosophically versed person, a psychologically versed person, a person that thinks very metaphysically, a person that is in touch with, you know, his own emotions and triggers, and you know, knowing what the psychology is capable of, knowing, you know, what entities are dwelling within and what potential, and it put you in a certain environment, then you know, you see, my biggest fear in there that I wasn't ever going to come out, and it wasn't because I was going to get murdered, because that's always a possibility. You know, there's fucking lunatics in there. You know, I read one account by some dude just because someone looked at him funny. You know, he snuck up on him in the shower when he's at his most vulnerable, couldn't protect himself, and stabbed him 27 times. You know, there's fucking maniacs. But that wasn't my issue because I've never been threatened or attacked by anybody in my life like that. I just have such an aura and a level of protection. And I've said in recent videos, I've never had my nose broken. I've never had any scars. I've never had any bones broken. I've never been beaten up in a fight. You know, I've always been very able-bodied, and people have always thought twice about, you know, engaging fisticuffs with me. But not only that, you see, I was renowned everywhere I went for carrying an aura of something that they couldn't understand.
In
And
prison, you mean,
yes, in
or
prison.
generally in life?
Oh, generally, I'm like that. But in prison, you know, they would watch me, they would observe me, and they wouldn't know what to make of me. But then, when they'd been around me for a while, and they'd listen to me speak with people, some of them they'd have the constitution to start talking to me, and they'd tell me that I carry a very powerful aura, and they weren't brave enough to approach me, but they were very intrigued. And you know, I'd be giving a yoga class, I'd be giving meditation lessons, I'd be giving hypnosis lessons. I'd be listening to people's problems. I'd be counseling them. And, you know, they had me down for the guru, you know, and they called
Animal
me,
magnetism at work there.
yeah, animal magnetism and all this. And they would say that, you know, being shacked up with me in a cell is exceedingly intellectually compromising. That's what they all said. And, you
That
know,
that might have been the hang on. That might have been the first time in any prison that line was ever uttered. I can't be in the cell with this guy. I'm intellectually compromised. You'd be compromised in other ways, maybe, but not intellectually.
you know, they'd all say
That
to
should
me,
be on the byline on the back of the
yeah,
book.
yeah,
Find that inmate and have him do the quote on the back.
yeah.
It was intellectually compromised. Oh God, that's
But
great.
they'd always say that yeah, go and see Zen. He's super smart. But when you are in prison with people that invariably don't have an education, then of course it's going to appear that way. Of course, even educated people would have me down for being smart, let alone if they didn't have an education. If you can listen to them for 5 minutes and then you can just drop one line which triggers them, hits them to their core, and maybe solves one of their big issues which they never thought about, well, they think you're a fucking genius.
Yeah.
When you can look into a person's psychology, it becomes quite easy to do this with many people. So yeah, the book will be very very insightful, very honest, very emotional, and it will be an awesome read. But again, it's going to be long. I don't think I can do short books. It's going to be long. It was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had in my life, and I don't have a single regret about it, by the way.
Now, yeah, because mostly in there people find God. Yours goes more all encompassing, which has never been told. No one's ever,
I
if they have had
discounted
that
God.
experience, they didn't talk. They've never talked about it in a
Yeah.
book. No one's ever done a book about that. Um, what was the spark that said, I got to tell this story? Was it always when you're writing this, you said, "Oh, that would be good too," but that's at another time? Because you could have intertwined a few in here, but what made you say, "No, that needs its own thing"?
Well, I did surreptitiously entwine things in that book, but I only mention my incarceration in one part where it was the rendezvous with the devil.
Right,
And
and
I
then you
put
did.
that in when I'd absolutely finished the book. But before I sent it to the publisher, I thought, upon reflection, I'm just going to put that bit in there because it gives it depth. Because otherwise, people would be thinking, what's he talking about? Encountering the devil, this, that, and the other. If you are shacked up with fucking lunatics for 24 hours a day and you got no communication with the outside world, I wasn't even able to have a phone call for the first 2 weeks. My family didn't even know what the fuck had happened or where I was. They had to phone around the whole of fucking
God.
Arizona prisons to see where the fuck I was. And being taken away from my solitude, from my silence, and being thrown into a tiny little fucking chamber, like on the wing, which is, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 50 feet long by about 30 feet wide, with 40 cells going off it, and everything echoes like fuck, and you got 40 inmates all screaming and fucking shouting and slamming cards down on the fucking tables and doing all different sorts of pranks. It was a living fucking hell. I had to
Oh
wear
man.
uh, uh, toilet paper, wet toilet paper, stuffed in my ears for a whole fucking year because you're not allowed to have
God.
cotton buds. You're not allowed to have cotton buds. So I had to have that because the noise was just absolutely overwhelming. And it was a real massive issue for me because from being able to meditate and walk in the woods and live this beautiful, tranquil life, living on my own, all of a sudden I'm living with 40 fucking men. And every single one of them got tattoos all over their fucking skulls and on their faces and scars over their faces and teeth knocked out. And good God, man. Good God.
Man,
Yeah.
well, I'm excited for it. There's a threshold, right, where we have people have to
Yeah,
purchase this.
I don't think the viewers are going to make it because the threshold I said was 50, and there's only been, I think now it's like 15 books since the announcement. Um, but there's 115 people. There's 115 of my viewers who have actually bought at least one copy. Some people have bought two or three, and like yourself, you bought two. And so my regular viewers is no more than 200. So almost, well over half of those, which is a fantastic ratio, have bought the book. But I I try to be as reasonable as I possibly can, and if people want me to put a good portion of my life into this, then if they can't put their hand in their pocket for £20, they can go fuck themselves and save me
Yeah,
the
it's
fucking effort, you know?
and this is cheaper than the first go round, right? It's
Y-
cheaper.
Yeah, yeah,
25, yeah.
yeah, and so um, I think the universe is looking out for me, and I think the universe is ensuring that I don't get 50 more sales because the universe wants me to concentrate with all of my energy on the actual writing of the book, and so
I'm
that's
gonna
what I'll
think you'll
do.
hit it. I think you'll hit the number. Um, it, like, is it like you? All right, how do I? You want the number to hit that certain number of sales to show, hey, I have interest in this enough, just like with any book. You want to know this one has enough interest for me to go through writing another one. Any publisher would want that. Hey, if this doesn't do good, we can't do a second one. People got to understand that. They want to hear the story. They're going to have to buy the book. And from what you're hearing, this is right up my alley. Someone where they're not, yeah, you're forced in a way to go within yourself beyond what you would do on your own. Because at home, you would meditate 2 hours a day, and there you're meditating 5. You see
Yeah.
where your mind goes and what you're forced to do. That's really intriguing, and probably even more intriguing than this. And I found some fun stuff in here. What is a spiritual person going in? Because a lot of people go in, most of them probably aren't like you were before you went in. Would you say that? How many
Oh,
people like you
absolutely.
were?
Look, the vast majority of people, they're drug addicts, drug dealers,
Yeah,
gang members, psychopaths, murderers,
exactly.
extremely violent people, and all the rest of it. Very, very few people were educated that I met.
Right. So your story of going in as a seeker and a man of knowledge and learning, going in there and now having to, it should be the driving point of it. Like, and now I have to go in here and double and triple down on that, on what I've learned to get through this. Because people can go in and talk about how it was terrible in there, or how it wasn't. I remember I read Tommy Chong's. He was in like basically a country club, Tommy Chong. I read his book, The I Chong.
Right.
Have you ever read that?
No.
Tommy Chong's book about him going into from Cheech and Chong. He called it the I Chong Meditations from the Joint was the name of the book. And he talked about all his stuff in there about how he used the I Ching in prison to help. But he said it was basically a country club. He's Tommy Chong. They all loved him in there. But he had it kind of that vibe when he went in there. It started to take shape. Yours, you were like that before you went in there. Such a unique viewpoint of here's a guy, a spiritual journey, and then is thrust into this new thing. Now, how does he do it in
Exactly.
here
So,
now?
so
How does
what it
he
was,
contend? Well,
I
he's got
made
to triple down.
Yeah, I maintain with every cell in my body that it was the hand of God that placed me in there. It was the hand of God that took me out of that disgusting, vile relationship with a full blown evil narcissist. And so, 1 year in 7 institutions, it enabled me to see what metal I was really made of. And what was my meditation worth? What was my psychology worth? What was my calm spirit worth? What was all the book reading and experience I've had all over the world? What was that worth when placed into that extremely volatile and potentially dangerous situation? Well, I came out completely with flying colours. Never had a single scuffle in there. Never upset anybody to the point whereby they felt like they hated me or this and the other. I impressed everybody that I ever met, and I had lots of people who were absolutely sincerely saying to me, I know this isn't your thing, Zen, but if ever you did want to communicate with me on the out, or when you're out, I've still got 5 years to do or 3 years to do. If you ever want to do that, then you're one of the very, very few people that I'd ever, ask. But they're saying, I know where you are. As soon as you're out of this environment, you're not carrying it with you. I'm not about to have pen pals in the pen, sending fucking money and books and keeping relationships and all that. I met some great people in there, but I let them know at the time. I said, listen, without being facetious here, it's kind of like, an encounter, with a philosopher, or what Jesus used to say. I am here now. I am here now. He always used to be saying to his apostles, respect and appreciate the fact that I am here now. The Son of Man is with you now. It isn't always going to be the case. And they say to him, oh, Master, where are you going? Because they didn't know where he was going. And I used to say to the people that, wanted to keep a relationship with me and valued the relationship, I said, look, capitalize on this now. I'm here for 6 months. I'm here for 4 months. I'm here for 2 months. I'm here for 9 days. Capitalize on it now. Whatever you feel you want to ask me, or, be with me now. And, that's how it was. And I left everybody. Um, you know, being very appreciative of having met lots of people, and likewise, and shaking people's hands, and hugging them with great sincerity. I met some very solid people, and yeah, that's it. But I wasn't about to carry it on, because I don't do friends, and
You're a solitary man.
I'm a solitary man, yeah. And there has been a few occasions when I wished I'd, maybe, I took some contact, because I'd like to send them my book, because they're still there now. They're still doing the exact same things in that fucking shithole of a fucking prison of war camp in the middle of the Arizona desert. They're still doing the same shit. They're queuing up for their breakfast in freezing cold temperatures. A queue, 500 men long, in the bitter snow and fucking wind and rain and shit like that. And it'll take an hour and a half to get you fucking scran in the morning. Fuck me. I did that shit for 6 months in that particular prison, but people will be doing it up to 5 years.
I tell you, like, I know this sounds crazy, but like, even though most of the people, if and when you write this book, most of those people might never been to prison or jail or ever will be, and it's probably going to be infinitely more relatable than this would be, because of the idea of it's a regular guy, because you have a spiritual past to you, but you're just a regular guy thrown into in a regular situation that's regular for some people in there, though. And here's how I did it. Here's how I got through it. Whereas this, which is still great, is like, some people might not be like, well, what's the egregores and what's all this? But this
Yeah.
one, it will be more relatable, even though they will have never stepped inside one.
Yeah,
Maybe they
and
never even watched Oz, and they'll
yeah,
still relate to
it'll
it.
be a story from the beginning to the end. It's got a beginning, it's got a definite beginning, it's got a definite end, and
Because the
um,
idea is a story as old as time. It's not. It's just set in a prison. Here's a guy like this, and he goes in here and has to do this.
yeah,
But the spiritual part of it is the thing that runs through it. It's a, how can this man get through this? You have spirituality as the backbone of it. Is going to be really friggin' interesting, man. Oh my god, I love it. Never heard of anything like that written. I'm going to look up later if I've seen any books close to that. I don't think there's been anything. I would have heard of something like that, because I'm always looking for spiritual, like, journal or like memoirs and stuff like that.
yeah.
Never seen anything
Well,
like
I,
that.
I I think the difference being with me that they get quite a lot of facets amalgamated into one. They've got someone with vast amounts of global travel. So I'm no shrinking violet. Our black belt in full contact karate, which used to represent his country. So he's going to be no pushover in there. Someone that's deeply spiritual, who is a qualified hypnotherapist. And there's so many facets to me that I'm going to be calling upon. Because every time I engage with somebody or looked at the situation, I was looking at it from a spiritual facet, a philosophical facet, a psychoanalytical facet, um, um, uh, a bit aggro facet, always looking out for the ones that potentially could be danger, having to consider what I would do in a certain situation. I've got a story. The first person that I was celled up with um, uh, was this Aryan skinhead. Completely shaved head, tattoos all over his body, huge swastika on his chest, full of fucking muscles. He'd been in prison 9 years and he'd been one of the major people in one of the prison riots. He got 10.5 years when I was there for dealing in fentanyl. I served about 3 months with him. He
Wow,
was
they go that long for the fentanyl, huh? Holy
yeah,
cow.
yeah, yeah. He was the leader of this wing,
Oh,
and I went into his cell, and within a few days, I had him eating out my hand. And everyone's saying, "So, what's your celly like? Where's he from? He's got a weird accent. Oh, he's English. What's he doing? All this meditation, fucking yoga. We see him doing like karate stretching and stuff, and all this stuff." And so, I used to speak to this guy. I used to counsel him. I used to have him literally eating out of my hand in the evening time with his head bowed. This big muscular fucking guy, tattoos all over himself, bowing down, as I spoke to him like, some sort of guru, which I was. And then he'd be doing press ups, handstands like this, in the cell, and he'd be doing press ups and squats and, all that working out and shit when we banged up 24 hours a day, And so by the time I'd watched him do that, I thought, well, he best watch me do a bit of it then. And so then I started doing press ups on my knuckles. And when he did 40 on his hands, I did 50 on my knuckles. And then I was doing all these stretching, and I could do the fucking splits within 3 inches off the ground. And I could do the box splits and put my whole body down on the ground. And so he asked me how I learned to do that. And I said through martial arts. And then I told him I represented my country, full contact karate. And then, we'd start talking about fighting. And then on the wing, the skinhead fraternity, if anybody ever gets insulted, then they've got to fucking sort it out with fisticuffs. Right. And so they had to do this. And then somebody had a fight. And then we all got locked down again for the next month. And so we're in the cell a lot together. And so I started talking about, well, what was the fight like? Because I never saw any marks on anyone's face. And then it's kind of like, oh, it's just a bit of this and a bit of that, and then holding on to each other. And I'm like, the thing is, the vast majority of people don't know how to punch. I said, hold this book for me, hold this book. So I got him to hold a book like that. And then I showed him how to punch, bang, with a straight fist like this. And then I go, bang, bang. And then I go, bang, bang, bang. And like that. And his eyes are wide open like that. He's never seen anyone punch like that before. And then they look at me in a whole different light. He learned that I was a black belt and represented my country and fought in world-class karate tournaments. Of course, that went around the whole fucking wing. And then, no one was going to fuck with me. Because I befriended him and he was supposedly the hardest guy on the fucking wing. Then, he obviously told the fucking story to everybody and nobody ever fucked with me. But they all knew I was a black belt.
See, this is the kind of stuff, people, that you're going to get in the book. This is fun stuff. Again, the idea, too, that you're like the quiet, obviously quiet because, one, you like to be that way, you're solitary, and then also staying out of, the limelight is a good thing to do in there. And you have an aura. There is something about you because you see it with the channel that people are very mesmerized by you, if that's the right word. But so that combined in there, probably, these people are looking like, what's with this guy? All of them probably didn't say it. I guarantee you the ones that didn't say it were probably thinking it, though, because there is something you sense about people. You get certain people, you sense things like, what's with this guy? I've seen it. People been like, and I'll be in a Starbucks and so big, what's with this guy over here? He's got something about him. There's just something about people. You have that. So that interaction that you're going to have to in stories in the books, it should be really fun. I'm excited. It wasn't something I ever expected you were going to announce that you would be writing, but people, are you kidding me? 50 books? What do you need? 35 more?
Yeah,
Come
well,
on,
that's right. And,
people.
and then once I've wrote that, then I'm going to write about my encounter with the narcissist, because narcissists are very very peculiar human programs. They are a corrupt spirit. They are actually evil entities, and they do everything they do. They set out to traumatize and cause you the greatest of suffering. And it really is a bizarre thing. And so I learned a great deal. I studied narcissism for a long time, and I had this relationship with that woman for 6 years. And it has to be said. It has to be said. What led me up to being there.
The
Which is a massive, complex, relationship story in itself.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be, and that's one where a perfect preface to the book, starting with that, will pull people in and go, here's the impetus for this. You
Yeah.
know, that's a great place to start with. See, what I love about this already has the guts there. Really, everything's there. Put this together.
Well, you see,
This thing's going to cook.
there's massive subjects. The massive
Yeah.
subject is about narcissism, because that's very big these days. Lots of people are
Oh,
getting
yeah.
educated about it. Then
But
when
it's
you've got,
mostly the men are the narcissists. I noticed that. It's
yeah,
always angled at the men being the narcissists. So this will be good because
yes,
they're always. I notice that's what I'm noticing. It's like, oh, it's a woman talking about how all these men are that way, but it's like, it goes both
yeah.
ways
Well,
with that.
when you go on YouTube and you look at people speaking about encountering narcissists, it's pretty 50-50.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
ones I'm seeing is that way.
yeah.
I'm glad it is that then
There's
because
there's lots of men talking about their encounters.
good, good,
But you see, what they're gonna get is they're gonna get broaching narcissism, and all of the classic things that they do. They have a format, and they all do pretty well exactly the same stuff. Every time you listen to somebody who has encountered a narcissist for many many years, they were married to one or this that and the other. They're very very stereotypical in all of the stuff they do. And so that is a phenomenon in itself, because that tells you that they are actually a program. It's not just something that is so varied and so nuanced. No, that it's actually a fucking program. NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is an actual program. And
So
so I'm
without
going to
going,
speak.
I'm
I would
sorry.
say
Go ahead.
I'll speak about that. I'll speak about it from my psychological vantage, from my therapeutic vantage. Being qualified in these realms and studying these stuff for many fucking years. I'm going to be speaking about it from a global experience. I'm no fool. I've been around the fucking world, many, many myriad of countries, and encountered many, many, many things. And I can speak to any particular subject in the greatest of depth, which is going to be unique because when you listen to people speaking about narcissists, invariably they are psychologists, because they took a course in psychology, or maybe they've gone back to university to become psychologists because of the trauma that they suffered, and they needed to work it out. So they're coming at it from a psychological perspective. They're not coming at it from a spiritual one. They're not coming at it from a philosophical one. They're not coming at it from an overall a humanity one, because there's so many things that you need to take into consideration to
Right.
shed a different light. It's like a multifaceted diamond. You can't just look at one facet. You're never
Good
going to
way to
get
look
the
at it.
full picture.
Not to go too deep, but just like surface level, you said 6 years. At what point did you start to notice there were these traits and you're like, huh? And then
Oh,
did you kind of pull back a bit and kind of like,
yeah. Well,
like at what point were you picking up on a few like red
from the
flags here?
very first moment, from the very
Very first
first
moment.
moment.
Okay, so you knew this person's got a little
Yeah.
egotistical in a way. Starts off probably like an ego trip person, right?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that
You,
out?
you,
Like this
you know. Did,
person's
did you ever did you ever see any of our videos with me and her?
The only things I saw were just some podcast things.
Right,
that you
yeah, I
did
used to do these
interviews?
podcasts. I did
Just
hundreds
a
of them.
couple interviews, yeah.
Yeah, I did hundreds of them with her. We used to speak every fucking day, 4 or 5 hours a day. We couldn't have a conversation which was less than that. We had, an exceptional, estranged relationship. But all the dynamics came into play of her being the predator and me being the prey. And I was the runner. I was the one that was always trying to be in avoidance, but she was the pursuer, and she would pursue me to the end of the earth and tell me that there's no way am I ever not going to be in her life. So fucking get used to it. And I'm like, whoa. But I was super intrigued, of course.
Right.
Uh, Being psychoanalytically, and she's bright. And don't get me wrong, she's bright. Most good ones are. Most of the good narcissists, most of the powerful ones, they are bright. They've got to be bright to be able to do what they do. And there's a whole bunch of it. The subject is massive, and but I was very very intrigued. Just wanted to know how it ended. How does this fucking thing end? And so
This
I
is.
look, I had to go
I'm
to
sorry.
America to find out how it ended.
It's interesting you said that, like intrigued, because people after the fact would talk to you and say to you about that. Well, if you saw those things, why would you do it? Well, you were intrigued. Just like a woman might go for a guy who's there, like, oh, he's a bad boy. This, I'm intrigued. I want to see if I can, fix him and do this. So women do the same thing. They go at something where they see it's a little dangerous, or it could be a little off. They'll go deeper into those right off the bat too. So people, because I know there were people say, well, if you saw that right away and you saw those tendencies, why would you do that? Well, you were intrigued, and that's okay. That's interesting. Let's explore this. Obviously, with anything, you'll never hear all sides of the story. People are going to have their thing. I like your approaches, which is because you're coming. I don't know this person. All I know is yours is coming from more of an honest place, because it's a spiritual. You're a spiritual person to begin with. So what's in it for you to make up things or have some cockamamie story about something?
Yeah,
There's nothing in that for you.
yeah,
You just have, hey, here's a guy, here's what I wanted. I want a deeper connection with this person. I found something intriguing, and I wanted to explore that. It went tits up and it didn't end well, but hey, this was my honest way going into it, and this is my honest story. I think we'll get that from you, because
yeah.
what would
You're
you
going to get
have to
absolutely
twist around?
explicitly honest, and it's not a kiss and tell story. It's
Right.
not going to have any level of vitriol in it, because I don't have an ounce of malice in me towards that person. I'm not going to be mentioning any names or giving any personal details, because it's not about her or it. I consider it more of an it, because the her didn't make manifest. I only saw the her for about 10 fleeting seconds. The spirit which was trapped inside of that program.
Hmm.
It's a very, very bizarre thing. You have to know the intricacies of what these narcissists are. But
So wait, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize interrupting, but I want to clarify. The 10 seconds was what you said for that little bit of time was what you actually saw the real person.
yeah, a window of
Okay.
opportunity. I looked into her eyes and I saw her soul. The
Okay, got
soul
it.
was
All right.
trapped. It was trapped behind a program, behind an alter ego that she'd created through childhood trauma. And
Okay. Got
so
it.
the real person was locked down, and all that I'd ever dealt with was the program. And the falsity, and they do this thing called love bombing, which they saturate you with wonderful things, and if the person is good looking and charismatic and all that, it's powerful, and they put you under hypnosis. And I've got to say, I was under hypnosis, for a time when it was on and off. It would come and it would go. I'd try to emancipate myself from it, but I could never really sever myself from it 100%, because the spirit was driving me to my destiny. I think that's what it was. Spirit was driving me to my destiny. Even the night
Mm.
before I was to get on that plane, my soul or a spirit in me was telling me, don't get on that fucking plane. Unpack your bag. You're staying here. I'm like, I can't. I've got to fucking go. I've got to see how this ends because it really was a make or break. If I was going to live with her for an extended period, we'd only ever spent 2 weeks together before. So if I was going to live together and work with her and see, what made manifest, if this wonderful relationship could really make manifest, but it never even came close because it wasn't the intention. The intention was to traumatize me, and so that's what manifest. And so, yeah, that subject. I've not. Started writing these things because the subject matter is overwhelming. It's like if I know I've got to write another book like this, the chances are that the prison one, that will be equal in volume, and the narcissistic one, that will be 1,000 fucking pages. I don't know how I'm going to actually manage to condense that because there's just so much which is just going to have to be said.
That's one. Wow. Yeah. So wait, the narcissist one. That's a separate book.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not going to be okay. That's what, because earlier I said put that at the beginning. I thought you were
No, I
starting
can
with
I
that,
can
and
put
then
a bit of an intro as to why
yeah,
I'm in
just to kind
prison
of.
because I got wrapped up with a narcissist, and I can explain briefly about that, which will pave the way to the sequel. Because at the end of the day,
Right.
look, this prison sequence is a sequel. It's a sequel to my life, to my journey, and this is why it's very important that people read the first fucking one to know who they're dealing with.
I like what you said too about I had to go just to see how this will end. A true sounds like true Aaron Berry, and everybody. I know it's a thing. Why would you recommend people to go see how this ends? First of all, I don't know why I like that idea of that. Well, you're in it, in for a penny, in for a pound. I say, and just let's go. There's something about that journey there, and it's dangerous to go to that end, but it seems perfect for you. You did it. Look what happened. Do you any regrets
Nope, none
about
at all.
seeing it to the end?
None at all.
See, and that's what I'm saying. So people go like, "Why you ended up in prison? It was this." Well, destiny, my friends.
Everything
Before
worked
we
out
wrap up, I want
perfect.
to forget because I don't want to keep you too long. I did want to wrap up with a little Providence catch up. What's the latest? Sorry
All
to
the
do a
late
quick left
The
turn.
latest, I made a video feeding my family. That was like a couple of days ago. And Providence, she has three offspring. They're pretty well grown these days. They're all beautiful. There's two females, I think, which are twins, and then there's one male. They all live together in the tree in front of my house. They moved out of their home that I built them because it got too small. She refurbished a dray up in the tree opposite me because she likes to be able to look into my apartment. She looks at the fucking window when I come to the window, and she comes to the window because she's going to get thrown some nuts. As soon as I go out in the garden, if it's a cold day, she'll be cuddled up in her nest with her family, and I'll go, "What's she doing?" And all of a sudden, I'll see her nose poke out her dray, and she'll look at me, and I'm like, "You hungry?" And she'll come down the tree and she's wagging her tail, and then she'll jump on me and she'll be in and out of my pockets and everything. And then she'll get some nuts and she'll sit on my shoulder and she'll be eating the fucking nuts and everything. And I'm sniffing her and kissing her and and tickling her and all that. It is beautiful. Yeah, her three offspring are living with her at the moment in time for survival purposes because of the cold winters. They ain't going to be sleeping alone. They're vastly going to be reducing their chance of survival in cold winters by sleeping alone. So they all shack up with somebody else through the winter, and then they'll go their own way in the spring, and they'll have their own offspring. The females will. The males don't rear the offspring. It's left entirely to the female. So the male just copulates and then does his own thing. The young ones will build their own drays next year. and they'll have young ones themselves, I would think, in June, because they usually have two mating periods, which is about Christmas time, about this time, or January, and then they have like 1 month ingestion period, and then they'll be giving birth in March, and then the next one is June. So there'll be a bigger family next year, and it's going to be beautiful.
I mean, it's something that like when that happened on the channel, it was like, you didn't expect this to happen. You got like an extended family now.
Yeah.
You didn't expect this. I mean, that was a pretty fun saga. This whole thing. So I wanted to catch up on that. Never expect. I did not think like, and that's coming from a place where I'm not expanding my mind to think like, oh, squirrels aren't just going to now like have some connection with a human on this level like they are with you, but we're seeing it. No, they can then they'll remember you, they'll come back, you'll come down, here he comes, because no one's connecting with animals out there in the world like that. Just their pets at home. That's it, you
Yeah.
know? It's heartwarming. I love it.
It's beautiful. So as soon as I go out into the garden, she'll come running up me. She'll run up my leg and she'll be in my pockets, and I'll say, "Oh, good morning."
I love it.
And if there's nothing in my pockets, she'll come up my chest and she'll look at me. As if say, "Well, where are they?" And then she'll go back into the pockets again. She'll check again, and then she'll check again, and then she'll come and she'll look at me. As if say, "Where's the nuts?"
I love it. I love these.
She
Those are
she knows
great.
her name, and it's a beautiful thing. And so she sits in my hand, eating her breakfast with her children sitting on the fence or running around the ground. They'll come within a couple of feet of me, but I'll never have the relationship that I've got with Mum, because I bottle fed her mum. It was an absolute wonderful relationship. We found each other at the right time. She'd not long fallen out of the nest, and her nest was about 30 feet high in a tree, and so she came out crying, walking towards me. And I put my hand down to see if she wanted to sniff or she would do. And she crawled up my arm. She started purring. She started doing this in my beard and nestled in. She got under my hair, and she didn't want to leave. And so I brought her home, and she was never, ever afraid in any shape or form. This is the thing that squirrels do have. If they fall out their nest, they're making a beeline for human beings, because they've learned somehow through evolution that if they've got a chance of survival, it's only with a human being. It isn't with any other animal. So they head straight for the human beings. And you can see this all over the internet. And if you want to watch all of the Providence videos, or some of them, then there's a playlist. They're all in
Oh,
the
okay,
playlist.
good. How long has it been? It was like a year now, right? Is it
A year and a
gotta
half.
be a
Yeah,
year and a half? Yeah.
she'll be two in June, because she was born in about June, and I found her in October.
So
July. No, I
forgive my
found she was
ignorant.
born in July, so I found her when she was about 10 weeks old.
Wow. So forgive my ignorance, but like, how long do they live? Squirrels usually.
Oh, well, in the wild, they can live up to be about 8 years old.
Okay, eight.
In
So I was gonna say
captivity.
she already got the kids. They go right to work, right?
Oh, yeah, your first year. In
Yeah.
captivity, they've been known to live up to 20 years old. So, you see, in captivity, they've got food on tap. They're always going to be warm, and there's no predators. So, the natural life cycle would be, about 20 years. But out in the wild, when they get old and they get cold and, they get ill, they get preyed upon, and this, that, and the other, then it's less. But, if God is on her side, then she'll be around, for many years, and she'll have babies every single year, I would think, uh, and then all of her offspring are going to be around, because it doesn't look like she's going anywhere.
From prison to Providence, right? What a
From
story.
prison to Providence. Wow,
I
that's
mean,
another book. That's another
oh
book. You see, my
God, no,
relationship with
you
Providence.
already got your fourth book lined up. You didn't even get the
Yeah,
second one
yeah.
done.
Well, I've got many books lined up, you see, because I'm going to write a book about my experience when I was living in Western Africa, in Ghana. I lived there for 3 years, and that's where I was shot. That's where I encountered a whole bunch of monkey business. People wouldn't believe what I went through. Another fantastic, unbelievable story, with all the connivance and trickery and deceit.
Especially as a white person too. There.
Yeah, yeah. And so that story is to be told, and so yeah, there's
You heard
uh,
it here first, people. 100 book, 50 books, prison book. 100 book, 100 narcissist. 150, you get a Providence book. 250 sales, you'll get a Africa book. Just keep
so
having like a tier list for all the books.
Eventually, I suppose I will be approaching somebody who wants to work with me for the promotion of my videos and my books. Someone that's going to set up a Twitter account and going to be taking excerpts of many of my videos on a daily basis and putting them on X, and then leading them back to the channel, advertising the book and all this different sort of thing, because that's where the market is. My
Yep.
nephew, the other day, he put up his first video on X that he'd ever done, and it was just him fucking about with a few fucking foreign students, being a bit comedic. And within 2 hours, he had 50,000 views and like 10,000 thumbs up, and loads of comments, and it was just a stupid dumbass video. And
Well,
so, and you earn money. You can have a little conversation on certain platforms, and you'll get tipped. And you can earn £100, £150, an hour. And so there's money to be earned if people
yeah.
want to make a vocation of it. But I don't want to make a vocation of it. But I do. I am actually convinced that my videos are extremely powerful and very valuable. And if people selectively picked out the bits that are not too offensive initially, for the tweets, to bring them in, and then let them see the whole fucking shebang, because
Yep.
they don't get what they get with me anywhere else. Really, I've never ever seen anyone that talks to their viewers like I do in this very, very
Nope.
personal relationship. Um, and so it's an acquired taste, but I do absolutely believe also that YouTube has got the brakes on me, and if I didn't have the brakes, then my videos would be very well sought after, because there's a market for everything out there, and many people love my belligerent rants, and so there's most certainly a bigger market than 200 fucking views.
Right.
That's what I'm certain of. You see, I watch the analytics on my subscribe. And I see for the past 1 month, it's been absolutely flatlining. It's been 1 gained and 3 lost, 2 gained and 1 lost, 4 gained and 1 lost. It's been just doing that. That's all it's been doing. Whereas before, it used to be going up like this. And I'm like, well, why has things changed now?
It's weird that you would have lose people because you've never changed what you've done. It's not like now they're like, wow, what is he talking about now? You've always been the same way. So people bailing out is like, huh. It's not like you threw him a curveball at him with your content.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like if I decry something sacred to them, like love, which
But
undermines.
that's I don't get that though. They don't like that, they disagree with that. Like if they like you and they like what you're saying, they want you to just like they want to hear only what they want to hear from your stuff.
Yeah,
It just doesn't make sense. I don't agree with every single thing you're saying in the video. I don't care.
yeah,
It's like, all right, like, that's weird. First of all, it's weird if anybody agrees with someone 100% of the time.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
just weird. So if
Yeah,
they're butthurt because, oh, he's talking about love in a bad way, unlike, well, the real world is going to unlike you. You're going to unlike a lot of stuff in the real world if you're, you know, it's not going to be all, buttercups and pigtails.
Yeah, but there's people out there with delicate dispositions, and they're looking for help and they're looking for comfort, and they probably fell on my channel, with some of my, more pleasant deliveries of philosophy and spirituality, and then they subscribe, but then the next one they get like, "Hey, you bunch of cunts, when are you going to fucking start putting something down, you fucking retards?" Well, that doesn't fare well with everyone.
But I think those are the ones. If I was new and I came along, I was uh, YouTube promoted a video of yours. It was gentle, and then but I liked because there's a lot of ones with people talking about topics. But if YouTube's algorithm dropped it on me and I liked it, and your next one was you bastards, blah blah blah, and I already liked you in the first one, I would probably be like, well, I like this too. But I guess you're right. Some people will be there just for the words, not the person, and they just want this like what's the word, not confirmation bias, but maybe they'll just every video they just want to be told this
Yeah, something
positive
like that.
thing and this thing.
They do. They just want it fluffy. They want their own confirmation bias. You see, they're not natural philosophers or psychoanalysts. And when I'm speaking about how we have multiple souls and, devil's not real, Jesus was a paedophile, oh my God, I'm going to get them somewhere. I'm going to
Right.
get them somewhere. And, that's my whole intention. Because I only want to give my time to people who are going to stick around through thick and thin, the diehards. I'm sifting the wheat from the chaff. I'm doing no more, no less than what Jesus did, or what anybody's done throughout history with their secret societies and esoteric stuff, this, that, and the other. I am being absolutely blatantly confrontational, to separate the wheat from the chaff, because I can't take the chaff forward. I can only take
Yeah.
the wheat forward because I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you ain't got the stomach for it, bail out now. You
You
know?
know what you need? You know what you need to do? This would be so friggin' funny. If you did like, because sometimes, rarely you'll be walking and you'll stop someone and start talking to somebody, and that's always entertaining. You should do a man on the street thing or out in front of the market or somewhere. Just wait for people to come out with a topic you're talking about. Ask that person a question about that topic, and then a few through the day as they're coming out, and just compile that into a video. Oh my God, would that be entertaining? Most of the people that you've like had chime in, they look like a deer in the headlights, and it's hilarious because a couple of times people are walking down the street, and there was an older lady recently in one. I'm cracking up over there with these people. You've got to do a man on. You've got to do something where you ask people what they think about this topic. Those are popular on YouTube. And if you did it like the topic, I asked people what they thought about this, and just sit in front of the market or in front of coming out of church on a Sunday, and I'm telling you that would be hilarious.
It
Please do something like that.
Well, it would be very, very popular because everybody loves to see me interact with other people. Because
Please do it.
other than these podcasts, it's they love the spontaneity of it. Whenever I meet an old lady or an old man or whatever in the street, they fucking love that stuff because it's very, very real and relatable. Now, I've often thought about that. I would love to do that, but I feel that I need a camera person to be
Right?
able to
Yeah.
get me and the other person together in the same picture. And the
Yeah.
camera person would need to be a female, so people would be much more relaxed with a male and a female. Two
Right.
males, lots of people may find it intimidating, particularly looking like what I look like and that. So a pleasant, good-looking woman, which would soften the edges. If I could get that, then I know that my videos would go fucking viral within an instant.
Oh.
And little
Oh my
excerpts of
God.
these on X.
Oh my God, it would be so funny. Because I
Yeah,
crack up every time you come across somebody. They look like they don't know what to even say. And it's like, but you're asking them
no,
very simple stuff. And they're like, because they're probably not asked things like this.
yeah.
And
I'm coming at them from a different dimension. That's what it is. I'm coming at them from a different dimension of consciousness.
oh my God, it would be, I'm telling you, this would be so entertaining. Because, oh my God. Oh, please do that. Get a camera person. Just do one tester. Sit out in front of a market. Get a nice topic and say, what do you think about this? And let them rant
Well,
and put
one
it
of the
up.
things
And
I
just,
wanted to do was to go around interviewing homeless people.
oh, it's another good one.
You know,
It's
I
another
once
good
did
one.
a series. It was called Down and Out in London. And
Oh,
I came back from living in Bulgaria, and I'd run out of money, and the government wouldn't give me any money because they said that I'd been out of the country for over 3 months, and so therefore I have to wait 3 months before I get paid. But that wasn't a true policy. That was the policy for foreigners, not for nationals. So
mm,
I appealed this, and I actually got all the money backdated to me when I took them. Well, I was going to take them to court, but the buckled in the interim. But before I was getting paid, I was actually down and out, and so I was visiting the soup kitchens and charities, and I was living from these places, and I was sleeping in the doorways of subways on cardboard boxes in the middle of winter, and it was fucking freezing cold, and I was walking around the streets, trying to discover where I could get free food from, and this, that, and the other. And I was speaking to the unemployment department and all that. And I did a whole series down and out in London, and then I was interviewing people who were living on the streets, and that was a major series. And then I did another series called The Patient, whereby I had an 18-part series whereby I would be speaking about my relationship with a younger brother who was and still is an alcoholic and an introvert. And so we used to go out cycling every Sunday because he was getting very, very overweight. He wanted to get back fit again. When we were younger, we used to box together and do all that training. But in later years, he's put on a load of weight and all this. And so I never told him that I was making videos about him. But every day after I'd been cycling with him, we used to do 18 miles. So we was together for 2 or 3 hours. I would come back and I would make the video, and I would give the update of what he said and the questions I asked, and people love that fucking interaction. And then I had videos with myself and my sister where she's burning Eckhart Tolle's book in the back garden, saying it's evil, and my viewers are the devils, and oh my goodness, I've had so much fucking great stuff out there. And
burning the book. Wow.
yeah, book burning fucking video. I used to have 20,000 subscribers, and be a lot more prolific with people when I was doing all that stuff. And but these days, I like to my solitude. I like to concentrate on my music and my meditation, my working out, and my cycling and nature walks. And I don't want it to be a job. I've been unemployed for 14 years. I don't want a fucking job you know, because I live the spiritual life.
I still want it. I want that. Even if you did it as like in between, in not in between, in one of your videos when you go to the market, just stop out for a couple minutes, ask a few people questions. Just put it in one of them as a little tester to see. But I will like I said, every time I see somebody and pop up in the videos, I'm like, all right, here we go. See what this person says. Again, usually they're like deer in the headlights, but it's still great. I mean, you had a classic interaction years ago with that NPC and the graveyard there. I mean, that was epic.
Well, one
Remember
of
the
the
old
things that
man?
I thought about doing is, you see, because if you've got a camera and you're holding it like this and you're pointing at them and you're pointing, people get insecure about that.
Right,
They want to know where you're posting it and this, that, and the other.
right.
So what I thought would be much better is to have a spy camera. You can have spy cameras in pens or in buttons and all different sorts of things, and the clarity and quality is superb these days. So many occasions when I'm out and about and I'll go for a coffee, on the very infrequent time I go into the city, and I just start talking with random people, old ladies, old men, and I engage them in the conversation, and they just end up being good conversations, and sometimes I'll extract some real humanisms out of people that you wouldn't expect. That sort of stuff, that fly on the wall sort of stuff, is fucking gold, and people would love that. And I could do that without anybody. And these spy cameras are very inexpensive, and so I could actually do that stuff, but I don't go anywhere, you see, except the gym and the supermarket. Going into town to mix with people is 5 miles. I'm not going to be cycling 5 miles, through the fucking winter
Right.
months, going into a cafe hoping that I'm going to be able to talk to someone. It's going to become a vocation. And, I have quite a bit of resentment when people won't even invest £20 in my fucking channel. So, I don't want to invest my life, for people's fucking entertainment.
I mean,
It,
you're not one dimensional. I mean, you like I said, you got like how many different styles of things you do in here. So it would just be another facet of your
Another
online
arrow to my
personality.
quiver. Yeah,
You do it all. You do it all on there.
there's a
I think
whole
I left
fucking
things
bunch of
out.
stuff.
Yeah, you do the singing, you're doing cooking, you're doing all of it. It's like, and I wish I could, like, I'd love to do that on mine, but it's like, I feel that like it'd have to come from an honest place that I want to do it for that. And I don't know how often I would end up doing each thing. And then it's like, then people will be like, what the hell is he talking? Why is he cooking? But I like to do that,
Yeah, well, you see,
because it's fun.
everything I do is completely natural. Nothing is
Yeah.
contrived. And if I've got something that I'm going to make a video, what I tend to do is I tend to do two things at the same time. So this is why I make my videos walking to the gym, walking back from the gym, walking to the supermarket, walking back from the supermarket. So therefore, I don't have to sit in the house wasting time when I could be singing and playing my guitar or reading. You see, so I utilize my time very, very efficiently.
It's
And
smart. Yeah. I'll
so
do that sometimes real early in the morning. I'll just turn it on.
yeah, and then I'm like, well, if I'm going to be cooking, I'll just turn the camera on and go, listen, guys, I've got to be in the kitchen anyway because I've got potatoes and vegetables boiling on the stove, so I may as well be talking to you guys about something that I want to address. Now, this, that, and the other, and I'll do that, and they'll be fucking stirring the gravy and this, that, and the other, and those would manifest into cooking videos. But now because I've shown everybody mostly all the meals I make, then there's nothing that new. And so I don't go through the eating a whole fucking chicken. There's only so many times I can do that.
But still, here's the thing. And that's something like I was thinking about with mine. Like, if you did that, it would just be like I said with mine. I was telling people, it's like, I'd like it to just be them tuning in for me. I don't want to have to really say anything important sometimes. It'd be like, hey, if I did something where every morning I sat down and did a video while I'm drinking tea, I want them to be there just to whatever I would talk about, the personality first, so to speak. You could, doesn't matter what they eat. I'm telling you this right now, you have to understand this. The people that watch, they would watch that even if you ate the same thing there, because you already have such a following for your personality. You could do it if that was daily, like every morning you did a breakfast one. They would tune in even if you ate the same damn thing
Yeah, they would, wouldn't they?
because they're like, what's he going to talk about? So
Yeah,
it's not even the food. It's like, and it's almost like a spiritual experience when you do it. And there's a meditative thing to it all. You probably don't realize it, but there is, and there's a flow. And it's not like you're putting on an act, a cooking show act. You're just talking. So you
yeah,
could eat chicken. And it doesn't matter if you ate chicken every day. They'd be like, I'm going to watch Aaron eat chicken today because he's going to be entertaining about it. So
yeah.
don't have fear of that like I can't eat the same thing. Of
Well,
course you can.
yeah, it's very curious because like I've made 3 videos about the burger, and I've made 2 videos about the eating the chicken, and I've made like several videos about lamb chops and this, that, and the other. And every time I make those videos, it's like my viewers have got amnesia because they get more thumbs up than the last one. And I'm like, nobody ever says, "Oh, you did that last week," or "You did that 2 weeks ago." They don't ever do that. And when I'm making a song, I'll make a song, and if I don't get the appropriate response from it, or nobody says, "Oh, you're getting a little bit better," or I like that song, or anything like that, then I'll put the same song up again with a different title, and I'll get the same amount of viewers or more viewers listening to it and a better reaction. And I'm like, so did they not watch the video 3 days ago or 2 days ago? Did they not see it in the feed that's exactly the fucking same? I don't know. It's bizarre. Trying to work things out. The human being is a very difficult, creature to be able to work out. But if I say something categorically, if I put up a song up, like I put up a song called Faith, George Michael, and there was a little response on that. Then I put the same song up again, and I said, "Do you like this song?" and then people respond with a thumbs up. So they need
It's like,
asking, they need prompting.
yeah, they're almost like monkeys.
Yeah, and then I'll put one song up like designated drinker, poor response again. Then I'll put another one up with the title: "Is this song sung well?" And then there's more thumbs up and engagement. So they need
Hmm.
poking all the
It's
time
crazy. It's
for
crazy,
response.
right?
Yeah, it is. It's fucking bizarre.
You should do live stream too, and turn it on one night. You got enough followers, you just sit, maybe sing, cooking, and just do it as a live stream, because
Yeah.
you can then maybe add more audience followers from it being in the live feeds and stuff.
People have
Because you
always
have
said that because people love the live shit. They love tuning into the fly on the
yeah,
wall thing.
you have a good personality for that because you, like you said, your stuff it is all off the cuff. A lot of these YouTubers, they sit and think of what to say first. You could tell you don't do that. You have something obviously you're going to talk about, but you don't have a script. You're
Yeah.
just talking. So you're perfect for a live stream. Just turn it on. Maybe you have a karaoke. You just sing for an hour. One night you're just hanging cook in the kitchen. It doesn't always have to be taped. You should do it live. You have the people talking and the thing. There's
Yeah.
interaction. There's spreading.
So
People are new coming in.
there's many
Everyone
things.
tells them.
Yeah, there's many things that I could be doing, but you see, they would all distract from my spiritual connection. And they would put me firmly back in the matrix, and I'd be looking at comments, and I'd be addressing comments, and I'd have to be spending loads of time on the computer doing all this and that. And before I knew it, then I would be like the dog being wagged by its tail, and I'm not about to do that.
Yeah,
I've created my beautiful environment. It's a hedonistic environment where I'm like a pig in shit, and I don't want to destroy that. And so, I've only got X amount of energy to give to the world. And so the energy that I'm going to be giving is going to be directed soon to a book. And when I do that, then the videos are going to be, dramatically reduced because it takes a lot of time and energy.
I have a feeling if you popped off and had like 200,000 subscribers, you wouldn't like that.
Yeah, it'd be too
I don't
overwhelming
think you'd
for
be
me.
able to. I don't think you'd want to deal with it.
No, I wouldn't.
I could tell you. I'd be like, if it popped off, you'd like it to reach a bigger audience, but then when you get it, you'd be like, it's almost like celebrities that like, I want to be famous. They get there, they're like, I don't know about all this, but they still go for it. You want people to watch it, but I think if it happened, you'd be like, well, fuck this. I got to answer these people. I got to tend to them. Because then if you don't, you didn't answer my comment. They're going to think,
Yeah,
why doesn't Aaron answer me? And it's like, I
yeah.
got
But the
500
thing
comments.
is,
You'd
you
probably
see,
like, now you have to be like, you have to
yeah.
now babysit them
I don't know
almost.
whether people realize or whether they would consider it far too conceited for me to say, but I am actually a spiritual guru. I do actually meditate every single day. I do spend the vast amount of time in solitude. I do invest in reading spiritual literature and scripture every single day. And I am actually speaking to my followers, imparting, useful information. So I'm doing everything that a guru is supposed to do. Now, what a guru is supposed to do fundamentally is spend a lot of time on his own in contemplation, in peace, away from the madness of the world. That's the whole thing about a guru. So I am a fully fledged guru, and by engaging more by doing this is taking me away from my kingdom of God. You know,
I guess you got to do you. Whatever you do, I'll be there watching. That's all you got to know.
I
Whatever you
appreciate
do, I'll
you,
be there
mate. So
watching.
we're almost up to 4 hours now. So I
All
suppose we
right.
best
Oh, let's wrap it up.
yeah, wrap it up. But this has been very invigorating, very insightful,
With
enjoyable.
me, we're going to be all over the place. Like I said, when you talk with me, it ain't going to be, we're not going to, you knows what we'll talk about. We ended up all over the place. I like that because there's more to you than just the stuff you say there. And I like to just see where we go. So, but like I said, anything you do, I'll be watching. Anything you do, I'll buy it because we need more people creative that are actually doing stuff that means something on YouTube instead of, you know, makeup tutorials. But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you too, Tommy. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk soon, yeah?
All right, brother.
Hasta la vista, bro.